And now, good mic work commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday night, and welcome to a very rare and special start time for this week's Winged Eagle Podcast, coming at you after AEW Collision instead of before. And you know what? This couldn't have worked out better because I scored kind of a last-minute Saturday night off, and I have a 10-mile-long sheet of notes to go through. So I hope you guys are into staying up late with me. It's only 7 p.m. here in California, but if you're on the East Coast, it's 10 p.m. right now. We got a ton of stuff to talk about, and I am glad that I am not handcuffed by time restraints or by AEW Collision starting or me having to go to work or anything like that. I got all the time in the world to discuss a ton of stuff. We have to talk about The Rock. A lot about The Rock tonight. A lot about The Rock. We've got news to get into. We have some wrestling deaths to get into. We have a lot of results. Dynamite, SmackDown, Collision tonight. We have to predict tomorrow's full AEW Revolution card, talk about Sting's final match, talk about WrestleMania, talk about a lot of stuff. Not even, you wouldn't even believe how much we're going to get into here tonight. And I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to kicking back, hanging out, having a nice casual podcast tonight because the notes this evening are endless, so it should be a fun hangout. Thank you for being here to everyone who was expecting me earlier on in the day. Normally we go live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, but I wanted to wait until Collision concluded. That way we can get that out of the way and just spend a Saturday evening together. And so I opened up a nice frosty cold one. I'm going to sip on a nice cold brew while we talk some wrestling tonight, and buckle up. This is your Winged Eagle Podcast for March 2nd, 2024, and it's going to be a fun one. Cheers to everyone. Thanks again for being here. Like I said, we're going to get some shout outs done. We're going to chat a little bit about what to expect from me this weekend, including tomorrow's AEW Revolution watch along. And then we will start getting into our wrestling news and WrestleMania stuff and Revolution stuff and AEW stuff and WWE stuff and good and bad and ugly. There's everything. We have good stories to report on. We have negative stories to report on. We have sad stories to report on. And of course, we have a lot, and I mean a lot of speculation to do about WrestleMania and The Rock and Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins and Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill and the tag team titles. There's so much to get into. Maybe I should shut the fuck up and get into it, huh? Yeah, that's what I thought. Good to see everybody. Like I said, let's cruise over here to the chat right away and just get some shout outs done because I did see a lot of super chats coming in. I want to knock a few of those out first. Acknowledge the channel members, and then we can get going here tonight. But I want to say hello to my good friend, Divine Ricks, who has been with us as a shoot brother for 18 months. He had a nice comment earlier on before we even went live that says, "Hey, Greg and friends, how about if WWE has an Andre the Giant Battle Royal on WrestleMania Saturday, and the winner of that match faces Gunther on Sunday for the IC title?" Now, I am going to be talking a lot about the Andre the Giant Battle Royal later when we get into our SmackDown review, because I have some ideas about that and some issues with it. And I think WWE has a chance here to bring it back to prominence since they've really only had one good year of it at WrestleMania 30, and then it went to shit for a decade. So I think it's time to bring that idea back. Here's one issue I have with your idea, Divine Ricks, is the Andre the Giant Battle Royal right now, it's just an accolade. It's just a trophy. If they start giving away title shots, then you've booked yourself into a corner, so to speak, to where you have to do it every time. WWE had this problem back in 1992 when they made the Royal Rumble for the WWE title, and then Ric Flair won it. And then the next year, they were like, well, you can't just have somebody win and then celebrate and then that's it. You have to make a stipulation now. So ever since then, they've had to give the winner of the Royal Rumble the main event or the title shot at WrestleMania, which has worked out well, but in other months and other years, it has handcuffed them a bit. So if they were to do something like that with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal for the IC title, you would think they would feel maybe forced or pressured to do that every single time. Maybe not, though. Like years ago, the King of the Ring was kind of like an unofficial number one contender tournament. Sometimes you got a title shot at SummerSlam like Mabel did, like Brock did, maybe somebody else, and then sometimes you didn't, or like Owen did, but Brett didn't, and Austin didn't, Billy Gunn didn't, Shamrock didn't. So sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Maybe that could work for the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, but I also think you could find Gunther's contender another way, and they have been laying the groundwork for that on TV. So I don't think they're going to have any issue finding a challenger for Gunther. Hopefully it's going to be Sami Zayn or Chad Gable. I like the idea that somebody threw out last week during the Raw review of maybe having a ladder match with all of the contenders on night one. That would be better than the Battle Royal. Do a ladder match, I guess, with a contract hanging up there, and then the winner of the ladder match faces Gunther on night two. You could do that, but I think WWE is still in the process of telling that story to us, so stay tuned. Divine's got 5 more right after that, saying the final 2 of the Battle Royal could be Sami and Gable, and either one of them could face Gunther on Sunday. That is true. I am hoping that it will be Sami Zayn or Chad Gable. I feel like I would be equally satisfied with both, regardless of who it is, but I don't know about the Andre the Giant Battle Royal thing. I think I would figure out a way to give those guys the title shot without having to do that for the Battle Royal, and have the Battle Royal stand on its own, and hopefully put it back on WrestleMania, the main card. There's 2 nights of this shit. I don't understand why it's so impossible for them to be able to squeeze that in, and why they're sticking it on SmackDown, or they have in recent years or last year. But if it's up to me, Braun Breaker is the man for that Andre the Giant Battle Royal. But good to see you as always, Divine. We got Jay Lambo, we got Zane G, we got Tomas Aridia, my boy, hanging out here. Welcome. Thanks for the $10. I mean this as someone who loves and supports AEW. As a fan, I'm very confused by 95% of their storylines. I'm looking forward to Sting's retirement, but the inconsistency of AEW booking is nauseating. If you would have told me that 6 months ago, I might agree, but I feel like this year they have been solid. They have been telling plenty of stories. All the matches we see on pay-per-view, a lot of these stories they've been telling. Deonna Purrazzo and Tony Storm, and of course Hangman and Swerve has been tremendous. Everything going on with the Undisputed Kingdom, with Roddy getting his shot and Wardlow getting a chance to compete for a championship as well. A lot of everything going on between FTR and BCC, everything going on at the pay-per-view feels like they've been actually telling these stories well. I feel like there has been a lot of consistency, a lot of coherence to their product that wasn't here in previous months. I felt like at the end of last year, October, November, they were all over the place creatively. Since the beginning of the year, I've been able to follow along pretty easily with them and haven't been feeling any sort of inconsistent feelings at all from their product. They're bringing in a lot of lesser known names, the CMLL partnership and some AAA names, and of course there's all the discourse of where's the video package to explain who these people are and shit like that, which they are doing a little bit of that now. And they did a great job of explaining the Atlantis Jr. stuff on Wednesday night with Jericho. So in terms of the cohesion of the product and the creative and the storylines and the direction, it hasn't felt as in disarray in my mind as it has in previous months. If anything, AEW has gotten back to a lot of the basics, a lot of the philosophies that kind of got them over to begin with. And that style of booking, I think, has been working out well. Again, they're not perfect. There's still all shit ton of problems in AEW, but the problems that people were having with the product, let's say 4 or 5 months ago, I think have largely improved since then. So I'm not feeling the same inconsistencies from their storylines or what the angles and stuff that they're shooting on TV, because I think they've been doing a better job in recent months of keeping that coherent and easily understandable for the audience. We got Tatanani saying hello. Good to see you, my friend. Right on. We have Deshaun Robinson. I know there's other people here. I'm just trying to hit these channel members. Deshaun Robinson, my boy, as always, happy to see you. We have, almost losing my spot, David Brown. Good to see you. FRGN as well. We got Rarely Even. My friend is back. What's up, Rarely Even? How you feeling today? We're in a good mood, right? Because it's Saturday night. I hope you are. But thanks for the $5, buddy. Gunther, Sami Zayn, Chad Gable for the IC on night one. They would tear the house down, Greg. They would. If they want to do a triple threat there, sure. But I also feel like Gunther losing that Intercontinental Championship should maybe be a big, I don't know, it maybe be like a big deal, like a one-on-one victory, unless they want to protect Gunther for any reason. But I feel like a title reign as long and as historic as Gunther, he needs to lose the title one-on-one. I'm not saying they're not going to do a triple threat, and a triple threat wouldn't be awesome. But in terms of Sami Zayn and Chad Gable specifically, the two opponents you're talking about, them telling the story, each of Sami, wanting to prove himself as a contender and Gable wanting to prove to himself that he can beat Gunther, making it a triple threat takes away the goals of those two. So I feel like it needs to be one or the other. I could be wrong, and they could very well do a triple threat, and the triple threat could be great. But in terms of the achievement that Sami Zayn and Chad Gable are both trying to accomplish, one-on-one would be better. So we'll see. If it turns out to be one of them, Greg's going to be happy. So I feel pretty confident and happy about that in terms of being a wrestling fan. Sonic Plays, good to see you as well. Smitty is here. So is Isaac. We got K-Dogs, Kennel dropping in $2. Thank you. And Jason for an amazing collaboration. Yes, I will get into that later, but I did have Solomonster on the channel yesterday. We recorded last week a fun Bret Hart WrestleMania themed video. It's up on the channel right now, and that has gotten a fuck ton of love. So thank you to everybody who watched that and enjoyed it. We'll talk about it here again in a minute. But as always, Kevin, good to see you. Hope you are well, my brother. William is here as well. So is Jay Lambo, and Jay Boba 28 has got $5 for us. The Maxine situation is very irrelevant. It sucks that wrestlers get shit on by the fans, but cheering and booing is part of the wrestling business. Maxine is in my notes. We are going to talk about that. I didn't really feel like it was an issue at all. Wrestling fans are assholes, newsflash. But at the same time, a little bit of that responsibility needs to go on WWE for putting people out in the ring that might not be ready. We will talk more about Maxine in a minute, Jay Boba, but thank you for that. Tomas has got 2 more. Jason and Greg was my multiverse of madness. I love it. A lot of people were marking out in the comments. That was really, really pleasing to see. Again, thanks for the love. Good to see We Are Pro Wrestling hanging out on a non-watch along. What are you doing here? We Are Pro Wrestling. It's not Sunday. It's not Sunday. You're supposed to be here. Anyway, good to see you as always. We got my friend Jacob the Zombie Fighter in here as well. You have to be up at 5 a.m., so can't stay. We'll watch at work. 5 a.m. I guess that's coming up soon for you. Sorry about that, man. I'm pretty sure I gave you a ride to work one time, didn't I? Yeah, I think we did. Smitty, not sure if I got you. I think I did. Good to see you as well. We have... Let's hit some other names since I recognize some of y'all, like Chaz. We got Chris in the house as well. Good to see Jack Sharp, Mohammed, Doug Unfunny, Green P, Max, Pokebra, and Mike Rouse both in the house. Hollywood Guy is here with $5. Thank you for that, my friend. So this tag team really happening. Roman and Rock for Seth and Cody. And if Cody wins, he gets his shot at Roman in night 2 at WrestleMania. Hollywood Guy, please stay tuned because we are going to be talking a lot about that situation. The tag matches happening. I mean, they told us it was. They showed us in the WrestleMania teaser and at the Vegas kickoff. Why have all of these confrontations if you weren't going to do the tag match? But they felt like maybe they weren't there for a week or two. Now it looks like it's back on. Probably always has been since Cody changed his mind. And like I said, we're going to talk all about The Rock, his Instagram post, and the SmackDown promo. Between that IG post and SmackDown, Homeboy talked for an hour. The SmackDown segment was 40 minutes long, wasn't it? Plus the 20 minutes he talked on Instagram. The dude spoke for an hour to fill in the gaps and tell the story and explain, or at least attempt to explain away why Cody did what he did. And they didn't totally satisfy me, but they did a decent enough job with it. And I'm going to be heaping heavy praise on WWE and The Rock and the SmackDown segment last night. And the story that they told, I loved it a lot. So stay tuned for that. We'll be getting into it. We have Ajax Johnson, Matt R, Shell Shock, Mega Teddy, Victor Colon. We have Rodrigo, Ben Espinoza is here as well. Good to see JL. We have Danny in Oak Park. We got Toro Hill, Denny Downbad, Big J, FRGN, Ajax Johnson, Dan Price. Good to see you. Adam Urbanski, Josh Garcia, Spartan Sprinkles. Right on. And we also have Charlie Quimby, Red Raven Rucker, Steve Jacobson. And, of course, my friend Zane G, as always, good to see you. And at the very top, we got Lasco, right on. I think that should at least cover the initial little flurry there of hellos and super chats and whatnot. We will return to these and pick up with those in a little bit. As always, send in your super chats. We will get into them as we go through the podcast here. And like I said, we have lots to get into. But first, I want to tell you guys about a couple of things. Number one, we're going to be back at it again tomorrow night for our AEW Revolution watch-along. Go to my channel, homepage. The link is right there at the top of the latest content tab. We're going to be doing a watch-along of the pay-per-view tomorrow because I think Sting's retirement is going to be really special. I feel like Tony Khan and AEW are really going to give Sting the type of retirement that fans really like to see, because it's very rare that when somebody retires that you know definitively that that is the end, and everybody else who's retired in the past has always come back. Even Mick Foley wants to have a death match. Yeah, you heard me right. We'll talk about it later, but even he wants to have a death match when he can barely fucking walk to the bathroom. So, wrestlers never officially retire, but this one feels good. You really feel it. I felt that way about Shawn too. I felt like he was going to be the one guy that wouldn't go back on his word, and he went back on his word. This is one instance where I feel even stronger than I did about Shawn's. I feel like this is absolutely it for Sting. He might pop into Dynamite to say hello or something like that in the future, but in terms of being a regular in-ring wrestler, competing and winning matches, this is it for him. And it's taking place in the Greensboro Coliseum, a building I've been in many, many times for a lot of wrestling shows and pay-per-views and Raws and whatnot. It's a historic building. I've never wanted to be in Greensboro more than I do right now. Wish I was there, but I'm all the way over here in the Wales of a JJ, so I can't make the show, but I wish I was there. It's a sold-out house. It's going to be a special moment. And I think the end of Revolution tomorrow will be really, really fun to watch together. So that's going to be going live tomorrow about 15 minutes before the main card starts. So we're not going to come up here for the 0-hour kickoff. We'll come up right at the tail end of that and begin watching the pay-per-view tomorrow. So please join us for that. We will also be back on Monday for a Raw review, because even though we're not going to get an answer from Cody and Seth, Rock and Roman Reigns indicated last night that they want Cody and Seth's answer in person next week on SmackDown in Dallas. So this Monday on Raw, I'm not really sure what we're going to see in terms of storyline development, but we might see a lot more with Gunther and perhaps what his Intercontinental title challenger path will be at Mania. Could be a lot to talk about, so we'll be up here Monday night after Raw. So you're going to get me basically 4 straight days, tonight, tomorrow, and Monday, and yesterday. I want to thank everybody for the outpouring of love and support over a really fun collaboration I did with the Solemn Monster. And you can check that video out right now. It is up on my channel. Jason joined me this week to rank Bret Hart's WrestleMania matches from worst to best. So we both privately compiled our lists, and then we compared lists on a YouTube video. And we were very, very close. Of course, Jason is a huge Bret Hart mark, as am I. We both grew up loving the guy, and we have a lot of similar memories and opinions and thoughts about Bret Hart. So when I proposed this idea to Jason, he did not hesitate at all. He was on board right away with this thing. We had a lot of fun. And plus, it doesn't require any work for both of us. We just basically went on memory. We know all of Bret Hart's matches backwards and forwards, had a great time talking about that. And it's my first kind of, attempt at hosting a guest. I've been a guest on other people's channels before, but it's my first time actually hosting one. So I want to thank Jason very much for your time, for your patience. He was very, very gracious with his time. If anything, I felt like I was rushing through it. I was kind of laughing when I was editing it, because when I'm on the podcast and it's by myself, I just look right into the camera and talk to you guys. But when I was hosting a guest, I found myself looking at him instead of into the camera. So there's things I need to work on and learn and improve upon as I do more of these. And you ain't going to have to wait long for me to do more of these, because we have another one set for next Friday. And this is going to be a video that I promise you won't regret. So stay tuned for that. And again, to Solemn Monster, thank you so much for joining me yesterday. It was a long overdue collaboration. If there's one guy I get asked by you guys to do a collaboration with more than anybody else, it's Solemn Monster. Solemn Monster, Solemn Monster, Solemn Monster, Solemn Monster. That's all I ever hear. So we had to start with him. It was a blast. I had fun doing it and I'm going to enjoy doing more of these for WrestleMania season. It's Mania March here on the channel, so we're going to be doing some collaborations. I've got some special episodes, maybe an extra live stream, a lot of WrestleMania themed content as we move in to this year's WrestleMania 40, which is looking more and more exciting with each passing day. So it's going to be a Mania season to remember here on the Good Mic Work channel. So stay tuned for all of that fun. Thank you for listening through those plugs and those upcoming schedule announcements. I appreciate it. So let me see. Where are we at here in my notes here? Does that do it for all the bullshit? Can I start talking to you guys about actual stuff? I think I can. And one more note about the Solid Monster. I do also want to thank him for the plug he gave us on his SmackDown review last night. It was funny. I got home from work relatively early for me. It was I guess maybe it was about 10:30. So it was just about 2.5 hours after SmackDown went off the air. And I got home and I came in, I turned my computer on and I pulled up YouTube and I saw that Jason was still live. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, he's still live. I'll click over there real quick, send him a quick super chat, thank him for his time. And as soon as I clicked on the video, I hear him talking about me. Somebody mentioned me in a comment about the Winged Eagle belts that are hanging on our walls or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's perfect timing. I literally just clicked on it and you mentioned me. And then somebody let me know that he gave a really nice plug to the video in the beginning of a SmackDown review last night. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we can get down to business. And unfortunately, we're going to kick things off with the wrestling news here after I hit these next two super chats. And we are going to get some of the sad shit out of the way early. We're going to talk about a couple of these wrestling deaths that we experienced this week, 3 to be exact, and get into some wrestling news tidbits, a little bit of AEW stuff, a little bit of WWE stuff, random things, and then we are going to dive, and I mean dive, into last night's WWE SmackDown and yesterday's long Rock promo on Instagram that is really setting the table for WrestleMania 40, and now we know finally what to expect out of Cody, Seth, Roman, and Rock. We know what the plan is, and that's a relief that there's no more, speculation as to how crazy they might get or if they might pivot again or whatever. It seems like they now have their plan, and that makes me happy. But before we get into all of that, let's open up here with some sad news. The wrestling world lost 3 legends this week. Now, one of these we have already briefly talked about. We spoke about Ole Anderson, who died on Monday at the age of 81. The news of his death, I think, came out earlier on in the day. So last Monday during our Raw review, we did speak about Ole a little bit, but I didn't have anything prepared or written down. I still really don't have a whole lot prepared here. I just did want to take the time to acknowledge the death of Ole Anderson because he was a significant player in the NWA back in the day, specifically with the Four Horsemen. He was a founding member of the Four Horsemen. And of course, prior to his Horseman days, he was an umpteenth time tag team champion with his brother Gene. He won dozens and dozens of championships, but excelled mostly in tags, winning lots of championships with his brother Gene as a member of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, and later in 1985 with Arn Anderson. And he returned to reform/join the Four Horsemen a few times in his career, including that time in 1989 when they brought Sting into the group, only to immediately kick him out. He also briefly managed the Beverly Brothers, who basically reformed a new Minnesota Wrecking Crew in about maybe 1990 before he went on to head up the WCW booking committee. Ole Anderson is the person that gave us the Black Scorpion storyline, which was ridiculous. And he was also, of course, the voice of the Shockmaster. And I don't know if you guys saw this week the clip floating around, which is absolutely hysterical. I don't know if a wrestling clip can be a spirit animal, but if it can, this one is mine. Apparently on the new season of Dark Side of the Ring, which does kick off season 5, premieres this Tuesday. And I believe the first episode is going to be on John Earthquake Tenta. That's where I'm assuming this clip is taken from, because Dark Side of the Ring, their social media posted this as a clip you will see on the premiere. But they weren't talking about Earthquake. They were talking about Fred Ottman, Shockmaster. And apparently Haku, who's interviewed for this, had never heard of the Shockmaster, never knew about this in WCW. He was in WCW like right around the time, shortly after the Shockmaster thing happened. Or maybe he was already there. I don't know how he missed this, but Haku apparently was completely unaware, not only of the Shockmaster gimmick, but what happened in the Shockmaster debut. So they play the clip for Haku. And all he does is laugh for 2 minutes straight. It was the first time. It was so fucking wholesome because it's the first time this man is seeing this. And wrestling fans have been talking about this for decades and making jokes about it. It's tattooed on our brains, him falling through that wall and everything surrounding the Shockmaster situation, to see that Haku, a man that worked for this company and alongside a lot of people that were involved in that segment, had no idea about this, was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. And there's a clip of Haku just laughing for what has to be close to 2 minutes straight of nonstop laughing. It was like the Hogan ovation on SmackDown, only laughing. So funny, so great, so hilarious. I can only assume it came from the John Tenta episode, but the voice that night of Shockmaster, after Fred Ottman got up off his ass and put his bedazzled Stormtrooper helmet back on, it was Ole Anderson doing the voice of the Shockmaster and all of that. So Ole definitely made his mark in a lot of different eras and a lot of different territories and a lot of different time periods. We're talking, 70s and 80s here, and even 90s, working his way into the front office and whatnot. And then he did have a very, kind of disappointing end in WCW, big falling out with Eric Bischoff. There was a firing involved there. I know Ole Anderson's son was a part of that. He was working out at the power plant. I think he was let go. And then Ole went to Cornette to try to get his son a job with Smoky Mountain. Bischoff took exception to that. I think there might have been a meeting that actually took place on WCW property, and that was a big no-no, and there was a big kind of cleaning house. And this is all detailed in Ole shoot interviews, Cornette shoot interviews. Heard about the story, before, about how Ole left WCW, but it was basically when Bischoff took over and, he was the man in charge. That was pretty much the end of Ole in WCW. But when you hear stories about Ole from anybody in the business, they're so negative. And I don't even mean negative like this is a bad person, bad guy. They're negative in an endearing way. The more asshole-ish Ole comes off in a story, the more you like him. And I don't know why it was like that with him. Like, I've talked about Ole before. I've complained about him. I'm like, I watched an interview with this son of a bitch, and what a grumpy dirtbag. He is just mumbling and grumbling and groaning and pissed off. Doesn't look like he's smiled in 15 years. And there have been a few people like that. Ken Patera, Billy Jack Haynes, who's going through his own shit right now, who I've seen throughout the years, do interviews. And I'm like, what is wrong with them? Like, why are they so pissed off? Why are they so pissed off? And Ole is always like that. And when he passed, it was kind of fun to read the Ole stories because people weren't holding back. Even though Ole was passed, they weren't pulling any punches talking about what an asshole he could be. And when I was reading a lot of those stories from various people that knew him or interacted with him or worked with him, I smiled. And I don't know why. Ole's just a character. He's just that, no nonsense fucking guy that literally just had the reputation of just being the biggest asshole imaginable. And for some reason, I don't hate him for that. I don't know why. So rest in peace to Ole Anderson. He was never one of my favorites, but you can't deny at least what he brought and what a big part of that, original Four Horsemen of the original Four Horsemen he was. And rest in peace to a legend, but he wouldn't be the only legend that would pass away this week. I want to thank you all for these super chats coming in. I do see them. We are going to get to them right after this next topic, Fox Star and A Level, and I think somebody else as well. Thank you for everything. We will get to those in just a moment. But the next legend we have to talk about is Virgil. Virgil passed away this week. I believe it was Wednesday, correct? I believe Virgil passed away on Wednesday at the age of 61. This is a shame. Virgil, I believe his real name is Mike Jones, correct? He's been a character on social media in the past couple of years. I do know that his health has been declining somewhat, and since his in-ring days have come to a close over the past few years, he's been very, very entertaining. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's like Marty Jannetty level unstable, but he's having a whole bunch of fun with his fuck money and his meat sauce and his Olive Gardens. And some of the videos I've seen this week of people interacting with him, my friend Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret had a funny one, funny interview with Virgil, or funny video with Virgil. And Sean Ross Sapp even had an interview that he conducted with Virgil that he never released because it was such a hot mess that he also put up. And it really, really paints Virgil as a guy that is, kind of half off his rocker at the end there, but really, really funny and a really entertaining dude. And I have hundreds of memories of Virgil. And I think that my biggest memory of Virgil is the impression that he had on me when I was a kid. When $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase first came into WWE and Virgil was his bodyguard. You're talking about me being 9, 10 years old at this time, and I was scared to death of Virgil. He looked like a scary motherfucker who could kill you. And I didn't like that. And I was really afraid for all of the other baby faces in the WWE. I remember telling myself, I remember having the conscious thought as a kid, holy shit, I hope this guy doesn't start wrestling. Because if he does, he's going to be unstoppable. And in the beginning, that's the way he was presented. The first time I ever saw him in a wrestling match was right after WrestleMania 4. I'll never forget it. I actually posted this match on social media just a couple days ago. And it was right after WrestleMania 4. Savage was the new champion, and I sat down to watch WWF Superstars on a Saturday morning or afternoon, whenever it was. And Macho Man was booked in one of his first matches after winning the title, a one-on-one non-title match against Virgil. And it was Virgil's first time in the ring. And I'm like, oh shit. And when you watch that match back, it is the strongest Virgil has ever been booked. He was dominant. He was fucking Randy up. And that's what I was worried about. Because a few times Virgil would get physical on Saturday Night's Main Event or any match that DiBiase was involved in. Whenever he would get physical, I remember one time he busted Randy Savage from behind and just hit him from behind with a strong forearm. And Savage just ate shit. And he was believable. Even though he didn't do a whole lot, he was China. He was China. He didn't wrestle a whole lot, didn't do a whole lot, but when he did, it was effective and it was very, very scary and strong looking. And in that match with Randy Savage, he lost, but he really had Savage on the ropes. And I think the finish even was Savage like hitting the elbow and catching a quick pin, but really, really struggling to beat Virgil. He was not an easy opponent. And then after that, you wouldn't see Virgil in the ring that much, maybe here or there. And that was the last time I ever remember him really being booked as someone who is scary, credible, and tough. Because after that, every time he got involved, when he was backing up the $1 Million Man, he was looking like a pussy. Everybody that $1 Million Man feuded with, Jake Roberts or Beefcake, whoever it might be, they would always kick the shit out of Virgil. He all of a sudden turned from an unstoppable, scary China-like figure to Jimmy Hart, who just got the shit kicked out of him. Every time he tried to interfere in a match, he would get humiliated. He'd be put to sleep in a sleeper. He'd be hit with a DDT. If he had hair, Brutus would have definitely shaved it off. And he was basically treated like that, just a punching bag for all of the baby faces. And even as a kid, I remember being like, no, wait a minute. A couple of years ago, this guy was pretty scary and even giving your WWE champion, Randy Savage, a run for his money. Now, all of a sudden, your grandma could whoop his ass? What gives? And then the whole bodyguard storyline kind of wrapped up and they did the angle where they turned him babyface at the Royal Rumble. And that was great. Ironically, in the ring with the guy that he was named after, Dusty Rhodes, and that tag with Dustin. They were building that up. DiBiase started becoming increasingly more abusive towards Virgil, verbally and even physically, and reminding him of his family, just humiliating him on TV. And so you knew that this is going to lead to a babyface turn for Virgil. You could see that writing on the wall, even if you were 4 years old. So they kept building that up. But the way they did it with Piper, trying to egg him on, trying to encourage him, trying to get him to see the light, I thought the angle came off well. Finally, when he bends over to pick up the belt after DiBiase and Virgil beat Dustin and Dusty, and DiBiase's berating him, humiliating him right there on worldwide pay-per-view. And Virgil kneels down to get the belt, and then he comes up and blasts DiBiase with it. DiBiase sells. The crowd goes nuts. Piper's brains blow out of his head. He's so excited. It was just quite the moment. But, Virgil was never really going to be a contender. That was a great babyface moment for him. And he had some good moments early, even winning that very $1 Million championship belt at SummerSlam just a few months later, becoming the champion, the $1 Million champion, but DiBiase would wind up regaining that from him. And then after that, Virgil was, I don't want to say glorified jobber, but kinda. He was on the card, contracted star, but the only wrestlers he's going to beat are enhancement talent. If he's in there with another fellow WWE superstar, he's going to lose 19 times out of 20. And that seemed to be the case for him, but he hung around. I mean, he was there for another couple of years. I think the last conscious memory I have of Virgil in WWE would have been like Survivor Series in 92. He worked with Yoko, and Yoko had just come in. And I remember he beat Virgil, and Virgil did like a backstage interview after the match where he warned then WWE champion Bret Hart, this guy here is a real deal. You better watch out. And that was the last time. I think Virgil was around in 93 as well, but I don't remember him much past that. And then, of course, when WCW started and the NWO formed, they brought him in as Vincent, which I always thought was really funny because what goes around comes around. You know, Vince wanted to be cute. Not only did he put Dusty in polka dots, he named one of his wrestlers after him. And then when Vincent goes to WCW, they name him after Vince McMahon. Loved it. Loved it. So he was Vincent in WCW. Again, never did anything there. I don't recall him having very many matches. I think he had a few. He would usually come out to like the B Team NWO music, which wasn't a bad theme, actually. I liked it. Anybody else like that theme? I did. So he never really did a whole lot there, but it was just fun to see him there. My favorite was when Piper came in. Piper came in like 96, started the thing with Hogan. And I remember there was a segment where all the NWO members were in the ring with Piper, and he pointed right at Vincent and he goes, "I taught you how to fight." And I'm like, I loved that. I loved just the little reference to their history. It was just awesome. So I loved all of that. But many of my memories of Virgil are vivid, you know, and they're good. You know, I liked his music as a babyface. He had that kind of jumping music. He kind of looked like Sugar Ray Leonard there with the boxing-ish trunks. And he was an agile guy. You know, he could move around. It's not like he was slow and lumbering and dumb. Dude could move. He could move. And he had a good look, hell of a body. Apparently, a lot going on down below, too. I think they called him the human tripod, from what I understand in the from the shoot interviews I've heard. And he loved his meat sauce. He loved his fuck money. Like I said, he was kind of a hot mess there at the end, but that was part of his charm. He never came across as dangerously unstable or anything like that. Just a guy who's a little bit off his rocker and just having a good time and says whatever the fuck's on his mind. And I didn't really mind that. Virgil is somebody that might not, you know, have per se a Hall of Fame career, but if you're a wrestling fan my age, how can you not remember Virgil? I remember a lot about him. I could sit here and talk for another 30 minutes about Virgil. I could. So rest in peace, Mike Jones, a.k.a. Virgil, a.k.a. Vincent, and whatever they called him in AEW. He even made an AEW appearance, did he not? What was he, fucking Meat Sauce Jones or something? Is that what they called him? I forgot. So he's even made AEW appearances in the last couple of years. So rest in peace to Virgil. Condolences to his family and friends. And I'll never forget you, man. Never forget you. We lost another one. This one came on Thursday. So we had Ole pass away Monday, Virgil pass away Thursday, and then Paul Butcher Vachon passed away. Virgil passed away on Wednesday. Paul Butcher Vachon passed away on Thursday. A longtime AWA and NWA legend passed away at the age of 86. He, of course, is the brother of Mad Dog Vachon and the stepfather, I believe, of Luna Vachon. He's also the brother of Vivian Vachon. She was one of the best women's wrestlers of the 1970s. She passed away in a car accident in 1991. But the Vachon family was a big one. Luna was brought in as a stepkid, but adopted the Vachon name. And I've never seen any more than tape footage of Butcher Vachon matches. But of course, AWA and NWA is where he made his mark the most. And at least at 86 years old, you know, Virgil made it to 61. Ole made it to 81. Virgil maybe passed away a little bit young. But I don't look at any of these deaths as terribly tragic. You know, at least they had lived to somewhat a decent age. Like I said, maybe not Virgil, but Butcher Vachon and Ole for sure. Two legends, three legends this week that the wrestling world lost. And I just wanted to pay homage to them. So rest in peace to the legends. And since we're on the subject of wrestling deaths, before we pause and go back to the chat, one thing I do want to mention is a really nice story reported by Fightful Select. Of course, this past week on Dynamite, the final segment was the big Young Bucks, Sting, and Darby stuff. And as we saw, Sting descended from the rafters for the first time, I believe, in AEW, for the first time in many, many years. And of course, AEW has a current relationship with Martha Hart and the Owen Hart Cup and whatnot. And apparently, according to Fightful Select, AEW got Martha's blessing for the Sting Dynamite entrance. Here's what they said this week. The drop from the ceiling was the first time Sting had done a rafter drop since his 2007 entrance at TNA Slammiversary. Outside of that, he'd not done one since 2000 in WCW and had used the entrance sparingly since the unfortunate passing of Owen in May of 1999. Sting utilizing the entrance led to some referencing the dangers associated with the entrance and perceived insensitivities. However, we're told that AEW and Tony Khan actually called Martha Hart in preparing for the spot to confer with her. Martha ended up giving her blessing, which is why the entrance happened. And as someone who's one of the biggest Owen Hart fans alive, I cannot tell you how much just I appreciate that gesture. That's a very nice gesture by AEW and a very generous response from Martha Hart. You know, at least she wasn't, she says, yeah, do it. It's fine. The fact that they actually thought enough to just kind of check with her. Hey, this is a woman we have a relationship with. We don't want to be insensitive. We all know how Owen Hart passed away, and we want to be conscious of that. So the fact that they ran it by her and she gave her blessing is really, really nice to read. And ironically, what's ironic about this is that Revolution tomorrow in the Greensboro Coliseum. The Greensboro Coliseum was the site of the next pay-per-view after Owen Hart died. I was there. King of the Ring, 1999. I've talked about it before. I sat in the fourth row right next to Superfan Vlad. And I remember the first thing I did when I got to my seat, go listen to my King of the Ring 99 reviews. I know there's at least one out there where I've mentioned this. When I got down to the floor and I got to my seat, because I always got there early, the very first thing I kind of did was look up at the ceiling and try to just visualize that, because I was still reeling, man. I hadn't processed fully Owen's death. I still was blown away that shit even fucking happened to begin with. And it was still really mind-blowing that happened. Crazy, surreal, that we had to experience a tragedy, an accident like that. And even though I had been to plenty of shows before and been in large arenas, to just sit there and look up and just realize, when you think about how fucking far he fell, I just remember just gasping, Jesus Christ, man. It was one of the first things I did when I got there was just look up at the ceiling. And that's the same building that Revolution is going to be in on Sunday, tomorrow, for Revolution. So that was cool. We'll see if if Sting has that entrance tomorrow. Probably not, since he did it on Dynamite, but who knows? I think he'll probably come down to the ring normal style tomorrow for Revolution. But like I said, we're going to be talking a lot about Revolution later on. So I just wanted to mention the Martha Hart stuff since we were on the subject of wrestling deaths, and then we'll move on to a different piece of AEW news in just a moment. I'm going to cruise to the chat here, knock out a couple of these supers, and see what's going on in here. And while I'm doing that, if you guys don't mind, please smash the thumbs up button for me. Likes really help generate exposure for this channel. So I would really appreciate that. If you're watching this later on demand, please drop a comment down below as well. Let me pick back up with some of these super chats, and we got a bunch. Thank you very much to my boy Zane G for the very generous $20 there. Hung out with Zane this past year at last year's WrestleMania, and man, maybe we're gonna do it again. Next time I'm in LA, I'm hitting you up, Zane. But good to see you as always. Thanks for that very generous drop. Let's say Reigns loses the title at WrestleMania. Does he stay a member of the Bloodline? Because there's rumors of Tama Tonga joining the Bloodline. Maybe have Solo betray Reigns and have Reigns turn babyface. Zane, all I can tell you is stay tuned. We're going to be talking about a lot of this stuff here later. If you noticed last night, though, on SmackDown, they very not subtly laid down your groundwork for Rock and Roman Reigns. That's happening. That's either going to be Crown Jewel or next year's WrestleMania. That's my prediction. So I feel like after WrestleMania, they're setting the table here for a major divide in the Bloodline, because I'm going to get into a lot of it later, but just to give you a quick little sneak peek, a hint at what I'm going to say later, I expect Rock and Roman Reigns to win that tag team match on night one and make the match Bloodline rules. It has to be Bloodline rules. Has to be Bloodline rules. I want them to overbook the fuck out of this match, and I want it to be all kinds of crazy. So the only way to do that is to have Rock and Roman win on night one, and then Cody wins the title on night two. But maybe Seth loses both nights, and that could cause a problem as well. But I feel like they are definitely setting up Rock and Roman Reigns having an issue. The Rock's been doing this with the L and the the acknowledging last night on SmackDown. Oh my God, there's so much to unpack, but we're going to be getting into it. Tama Tonga, of course, rumored to be heading to WWE as well. Wouldn't be surprised at all if we see him or Jacob Fatu turn up in that match. I think there's a lot of possibilities. I want to see Cody's mom hit a shooting star press on Roman Reigns. That's how crazy I want this match to get. So we're going to be dissecting it here in just a little bit, Zane, but always, thank you. As always, thank you for that. Spartan Sprinkles hits us with $2. Appreciate that. Thanks for reading my name and putting some stank on it. Spartan Sprinkles. I don't know. I just like it. I just like it. A lot of my family went to Michigan State University, so you're a Spartan, and sprinkle some sprinkles on them Spartans. Right on. Max, you know what's up. You know not to regret it, right? Rodrigo, there is an email out, actually. Foxstar Killer, thank you for that $10. Hey, guys, got all the time in the world for tonight's podcast since I don't work until 1:15 tomorrow afternoon. Only just made it past the June 28th, 99 Nitro and Raw on the network. Right, okay. So if that was June 28th, dude, whatever, find the date of King of the Ring, because I was at the show. I was at Raw after King of the Ring. That was the night that Austin beat Undertaker for the title. That was in Charlotte. I was there too. So if that's the same Raw, you might have watched the one I was just at. I remember that night too. We had decent seats, but for some reason, me and my boy Daniel, we like walked around the arena that night. I remember watching the Undertaker win. I'm sorry, the Austin victory, standing up. We were like up. I think we were just walking around. I don't know what the fuck we were doing, but I remember standing when the 3 count happened and when Austin won the match. So yeah, you're right around that time period there. Foxstar, appreciate that generous super chat from you, as well as A Level with another generous $20. Thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate it. What's up, Greg? Hope that you are doing well. Great collab with you and Solomonster. If anyone hasn't seen it, check it out. Bret Hart is the GOAT. Yes, he is. Rest in peace, Virgil. Yep, right on. I mean, it is funny that it's WrestleMania season and we were ranking WrestleMania matches because Bret Hart is not Mr. WrestleMania. Bret Hart is Mr. SummerSlam. So maybe we'll hit Jason back up. I don't want to bug him, but he might be down to come around again in the summertime and do the SummerSlam matches. So stay tuned for that. Titanium Titan, what's up, my friend? The Juliet is here as well. We have A Level joining the memberships. What's up, dude? Welcome to the family. God, I owe you guys a brand new membership welcome video. I'm so overdue on that. My bad. I'm kind of a one-man show here. Haven't hired a staff yet, so I'm kind of doing everything on my own. But I do owe that a little bit of an update and just update the overall membership tiers in general and stuff, and make sure that I'm at least supplying you guys with some bonus content. Also, A Level, make sure you check the community tab. Lots of members only posts over there with videos of my full form watch alongs that are available for Patreon members and channel members. So keep that in mind. Good to see Mr. J here. Thank you for everything. And thanks for being a 1-month family member, my friend. And always appreciate you. The Juliet has got $10 for us, and she's gifted a membership to Mr. All Days Off. Juliet pops in here about every live stream and usually gifts at least one membership. So I want to shout out the Juliet 316. We got to get her a shirt. The Juliet 316. Who knows what we'll put on the back as a thank you, because she's always in here hooking it up. We appreciate it. And thank you for that $10 super chat. Go watch Good Mic Work and Solomonsters collab. Well worth over an hour of your time. Agreed with what both of you have as number one, but would have been fine if you chose as your number two had been your number ones. Yeah, it was one thing I said in the video. I said, the top match and the bottom match were easy. I filled in the gaps. I started with, because I love Bret and Owen, I do, but you can't not have Austin and Bret number one. The significance of that match and what it meant for wrestling, for Bret, and especially Steve, you can't not put that match number one. And then Bret Hart and Vince McMahon was such a shit show. Even Bret and Backlund, as bad as it was, at least it was Bret in real form. At least it was Bret in championship form, not just an old worn out guy wearing a hockey jersey, can't take bumps, force feeding us a match and force feeding us closure that just didn't really feel right. I felt like those two were no-brainers, and then everything else we filled in the middle. But it's always fun talking about Bret Hart. The Juliet, I know you frequent Jason's streams as well, so we both love you and appreciate you. We've got where was my next one? I lost you. Oh, there it is. We got 5 more from Zane. Thank you, dude. I'm sorry. Real quick, your thoughts on Sean Spears' return. Fuck, there's one thing that's not in my notes, dude. Thank you for that. How did that not make my notes? I completely forgot to mention that. We better mention it now since I might forget. But Sean Spears has returned to WWE. He's returned to NXT. Showed up this past Tuesday. I think he was interviewed walking into the arena, or did he get out of a car? Is that what it was? And he's not Ty Dillinger. He's Sean Spears. So that's really interesting. Apparently he is going to be part of the NXT brand. I don't know what they're going to use him for. This is a guy that you would think would be main roster ready in terms of his experience. So they might actually want him in NXT because he was there in the early days of NXT. He was in the company in total for like close to 10 years, right? He was an extra, got in the ring a few times, had one of the biggest pops in modern Royal Rumbles, over the past, 10 years or so. And maybe he can be there to help. I mean, this is a guy with a lot of knowledge. He's a veteran now. Maybe they also want him there as a coach or a guide. He's close with Cody. Awesome. Happy for him. And maybe Peyton Royce can find her way back into the company as well, as the two of them, I believe, are married and at least have one child at this point. So yeah, Sean Spears' return. I forgot to put it in my notes. Thank you for bringing that up. It's probably the only thing that I forgot to put in my notes because there's a ton of notes and we ain't even like a 10th of the way done. So buckle up. Domination Warrior, appreciate that 5 from you, dude. Great work as always, Greg. I got to ask, since Rock is back, who outside WWE could hang with him on the mic? Besides me, Samoa Joe, Eddie Kingston, EC3, Joe Hendry. Man, Rock is so different, though, on the mic. Rock brings a different level of energy that it's just not like a normal person on the mic. Eddie Kingston would be a blast to see face-to-face with The Rock. So would Samoa Joe. Those two specifically because they won't take his shit. Rock and his nursery rhymes and his poo-poo jokes and all that fucking crap and the cactus crackheads or whatever. They might not be down for that. But I think there's a lot of guys that could hang. I think CM Punk can hang with The Rock. He's another guy like Eddie, like Joe, that I just don't think will sit there and just take that crap from him, So there's he's got some competition out there, but there's really only one Rock at the end of the day. I think we can all agree on that. Let's get back to our notes here. Want to talk a little bit about the future of AEW and their TV rights deal. We are still waiting on them to renew or re-up with Warner Brothers Discovery, and a lot of fans would really love for AEW to secure some sort of a streaming platform for their content. They have the Ring of Honor, brand, and they have that whole tape library. They now have about 5 years of AEW library footage now that they could use. They've got content. The content is there. They could even buy more one day if they wanted to buy off TNA or something. Who knows? But if they ever wanted to add more and become more of a pro wrestling content distributor like WWE is, these are all things that have to happen, and they really do need to get on a streaming platform and adopt the same basically formula that WWE does for their pay-per-views. I get my money's worth out of every every AEW pay-per-view that I purchase, but it would be nice to not have to buy those anymore. It would be nice to just subscribe to a streaming platform, or perhaps AEW going to a platform I'm already subscribed to and get all the pay-per-views for free from now on. So we might still be a ways off from that being a reality, but I think it needs to happen for AEW's growth and for them to, continue their longevity and, and success long-term. But that is already looking pretty good because they did an AEW Revolution media call the other day where Tony Khan was asked a whole bunch of questions. One of those questions was about the TV rights deal, and these transcripts are courtesy of Fightful. There was a lot going on here, but I only want to read you the final paragraph where he says this, and I quote, "The biggest opportunity," this is from Tony Khan, by the way, "the biggest opportunity lies in the media rights renewal, where Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision will all be getting a huge, huge increase, I can say for sure. Going into that and having that confidence, I think 2025 is going to go down as the year where AEW really took the leap from being a startup company to being the established challenger player in pro wrestling for decades to come, and establishing all of that in basically 5 years. That was the 5-year plan." So he feels very confident. I've been saying that for months. I have not really been too concerned about their TV rights deal because Tony Khan's been asked about this a lot, I'd say over the last close to a year, but definitely about the last 6 to 9 months for sure, where he's been asked about this several times. And his responses have always been, they haven't really offered any concrete answers, but he does not seem worried about it, in the slightest. And based on where they're ranking on cable, you can compare their numbers to WWE or their numbers to the Attitude Era numbers all you want. But in terms of where they sit now, currently in the present landscape of media and channels and streaming and cable, they are doing well with their numbers. There's no danger of them being dumped or canceled or anything like that by the network. Warner Brothers is happy with them. They've said as much time and time again. They've really helped them with their advertisement, giving them times, giving them leeway, giving them more time, wanting more shows, reality shows, another 2-hour show on Saturday, 1-hour show on Friday nights. And are they WWE? No. To compare the two and then act like AEW is a bunch of losers because they're not as big as this huge fucking mega monster out there is an idiotic way to think. And I laugh every time fans are like, oh, AEW is going down the tubes. I'm like, I don't know what you're watching or what universe you're living in, but it goes way beyond, the bad faith jackoffs on social media. You actually have to use your brain and actually think a little bit. I know it's hard, but as a fan watching with no tribal dog in the fight, it's very easy to see that AEW is definitely going to remain on television for years to come. And Tony Khan has been pretty, it's been pretty obvious, I guess, from even though he hasn't offered any real answers, it's been obvious based on his tone, his demeanor, his smirks, that they're doing just fine. And when you hear what he said on the media call, that makes me happy. That makes me happy as a wrestling fan. That secures AEW, their longevity in the future on TV. Media rights deal increases means more money for them, which means more money to pay talent, more jobs, more opportunities for people, and a healthy, competitive wrestling environment. Do you guys want to go back to 2017? Do you want to go back to WWE 2019? Do you want that product again? No, you don't. You want this. This is better. WWE's great. AEW, they've had some ups and downs right now, but as a company as a whole overall, they ain't going away. They have to make improvements with creative. They've had issues there, but it's not like they've been sitting in the back jacking off, just putting out whatever they want on TV. If that's what you think, you are not paying attention to them. They've made some really, really big hires, including a big creative hire just in the past week or two that is really, really going to help them and probably is going to be noticeable in their women's division. So there's a lot that AEW, they haven't given up. It's not like they're just walking around, just doing whatever the fuck they want down there. Oh, forget it. They're going to renew us. We're going to get canceled, and they're just like going through the motions, the same type of stuff you heard about WCW back in the day near their end, when things are really coming off the rails there. You got some talent issues back there. We're going to talk about some backstage distractions, which never seem to go away in this fucking company. They are there. They do exist. But in terms of the company itself moving forward after the disasters that they've had with the brawl in and then the brawl out, or the brawl out, then the brawl in, then Punk leaving again, and the backstage fights and the issues and people wanting out of their contracts and, and the turmoil and all that stuff going on. Despite all of that, they have remained focused and moving forward and improving their product, trying to learn from their mistakes and get better. Some of the mistakes they have not quite learned from yet. Some they have, but you can see a conscious effort to try to make their show as good as possible. So they're going through a dry spell right now. Attendance is really down. They're going to have a huge house tomorrow, but overall, Collision and Dynamite are now somewhere around the 3,000 fan range, which is pretty low. So, those are all issues that are there that they're working on, but fuck, it ain't like the talent's not there. I'll tell you this, watching Dynamite on Wednesday, Will Ospreay came off like a star, like a real, true, bona fide star. Loved it. Loved him. They've got a lot of pieces there. If they can put it together or find somebody on the men's roster that can find something click, the way Tony Storm has, I think they're almost there with Hangman Page. I think they kind of are there already with Swerve Strickland. If you can just find somebody that just explodes or gets super over and they fall ass backwards into something, then it's going to be a whole different ball game out there. So don't sleep on them. And when they announce their right increases and they're going to be on TNT and TBS for another 5 years guaranteed, go cry to your mom about it. We also have some reports and rumors of there still being a lot of backstage frustrations. This came from Brian Alvarez this week, where he was reporting a lot of frustrations and a lot of chaos and a lot of, kind of WWE level, I guess, frustrations in the company in terms of people not finding out what they're doing until the last minute. Things are changing. A lot of wrestlers have a say in what they do, which means they can go to Tony Khan and say, hey, I don't want to do this. Then he changes it, which then steps on the toes of other people. And it's just this never-ending cycle. These things happen. This is what you're going to see in locker rooms. And this is pretty funny coming from Alvarez, because I know he has people there that he talks to. But I'm not sure how accurate that can really be, considering the quality of the product we're currently seeing. It's not coming off like a roster in disarray, because when that stuff happens, you can see it on camera. You can see it come through and shine through in your product a lot when you have, really, really bad morale. And we've seen instances of that in AEW before, people not cooperating in matches and stuff. But the TV lately has not lacked any effort whatsoever from the talent. And if there are backstage frustrations, I have no doubt that there are. I don't know how different they really are from any wrestling company currently at the moment. Even in WWE, as great as they're doing right now, you think there's people backstage right now that aren't frustrated or aren't wondering why they're not getting more TV time, or why they're not being used more? Why Mel Batoast and the other one haven't been on TV despite being tag team champions at one point, things like that. There's plenty of frustration. That stuff just exists no matter how good or bad things are. So when I read the Alvarez stuff, I was like, I don't know if I really even buy into any of that at this point. But that doesn't mean there aren't still issues, because we do have disgruntled talent. Not sure if it's disgruntled with a little d or a big D. Rest in peace, Richard Lewis. But it does exist. One of those wrestlers could be Miro. We have that tomorrow at Revolution. We've got that scramble match. So they got the 8-man all-stars scramble match, Moons over Miami, whatever it's called. And the winner is going to get a future AEW title shot. Well, apparently this was originally supposed to be the Meat Madness match. It was going to be like 8 big meaty guys. 2 of the guys that Tony Khan wanted in this thing when he first came up with this concept was Miro and Keith Lee, both of whom are injured. Well, during the media call, Tony Khan was asked about this, and he explained everything. He goes, originally, this was going to be the Meat Madness match, but I decided to shelve the idea due to injuries of a lot of big men, including injuries to Miro and Keith Lee, but also some other injuries. So I still want to do Meat Madness in the future. We just couldn't do it right now. That's why I changed it to the Scramble match. Well, then later on in the day, I guess, Miro is responding to basically an aggregation only of what Tony Khan said, and it was only a small portion of it. If you listen to the entire quote and the entire context of everything, Tony Khan plainly explains this. But what Miro read, and that's why, media aggregation and doing it properly is so important, what Miro read only said something to the effect of, it was worded in a way to make Miro think that Tony Khan thinks and wasn't aware of him being injured. Basically, he thought that Tony Khan was saying Miro was supposed to be in the Meat Madness match at Revolution as he was booked for it. And that's when Miro responded by saying, I've been injured since September and got medical attention in January. Sorry, he wasn't aware of it. The problem is that's not what Tony Khan was saying. And this is just a shame, because Miro is so great. The Redeemer character was very, very over and a very awesome character. However, he did experience start and stop problems, and he did probably have some justifiable creative frustration. But this is one where you should read the whole thing before you just immediately spout off. Or if you are going to tweet some frustration, some passive aggressiveness towards your boss for whatever frustrations you might have, make sure that that's actually what he said before you do it. And if he would have read a little further or read the entire quote in the entire context of the quote, he might not have come to that same conclusion. So it's not that Tony Khan wasn't aware that Miro was injured. He was. It's just his original plan for Meat Madness was to have a bunch of their meaty guys. And unfortunately, right now, a bunch of their meaty guys are injured. So they're doing the scramble instead. That's it. So it was just a misunderstanding, but an unfortunate one because Miro is not shy about voicing his frustrations at all either. And something like this just isn't going to help. And I think, Miro and Tony Khan being unable to get on the same page is a bummer because I kind of thought Miro was going to be a top contender, there for a while and then just disappeared. So he definitely has a reason to be frustrated for sure. But I think that was a mistake yesterday. So that's a shame. And you know what? It wouldn't be an AEW pay-per-view weekend without backstage distractions. Here's another one that started unfolding right before our eyes before Collision went on the air regarding Kevin Kelly and Ian Riccaboni. Now, Kevin Kelly was on Collision doing commentary tonight, so I'm not sure what he's too pissed about, but I guess it's just the amount of time, or maybe them preferring Ian over him. So the gist of this, from what I could gather, because I was busy trying to finish up the notes for the podcast and I'm starting to read all the shit. I'm like, what's going on now? It was tying into some sex traffic or a human trafficking movie that Kevin Kelly is watching. Kevin Kelly, he does have some questionable political opinions, political opinions that you might find from your grandma on Facebook or perhaps on the back of your Uncle Randy's truck. He's a reader of the Babylon Bee, shit like that. You know the type. So that's not even the problem here. The problem is that he seems irritated. And again, with these wrestlers and these people that work in AEW feeling like it's okay just to air out their frustrations on social media like this is fucking nuts. But this whole thing, it looked like started when Kevin Kelly responded to a tweet that said this. It said, quote, from a user, said, "I have always appreciated the links you go to," meaning Kevin Kelly, "to give a history and background of a match. Why are these two fighting? I sometimes feel that is lost by some of your brethren. You literally got me into New Japan because you took the time to set up matches for someone who was new." Kevin Kelly responded to this by saying, "I do the same thing in AEW because it's critical to explain the why. But the idea of what I bring to the table is lost there because Ian libeled me. So I sit on the bench, valued by my peers, waiting to get my number called. I keep asking why, but get pushed aside. It's okay because there is no one better than me. Ask the ones that know and they'll tell you. It's a personal thing against me. It has to be. Defies logic. No actions have been taken in spite of my good name. In spite of my good name and reputation being dragged through the mud." So it sounds like something went on, some backstage beef between Ian and Kevin Kelly. I mean, it was weird when Kevin Kelly was brought in and then, Ian Riccaboni also was there. They might be competing for a job, I guess, but I thought they would have plenty of, time to balance these guys out. Plus, I don't think Ian wants a full-time contract there as he wants to spend time with his kids. So maybe it's a sharing of the duties that he has an issue with. I'm not even sure who does what in this company. I heard Kevin Kelly on Collision tonight. I don't know if that's every night, every Saturday he's on, or you guys tell me what's going on with that. But it sounds like whatever the case is, he's unhappy about his usage in AEW, feels like he's the best commentator in the game and deserves to be featured more, but is not because of perceived backstage shenanigans. Well, from the responses I could see online, it looked like people were largely dunking on him for this. If there's going to be a war and it's going to be Team Kevin Kelly and Team Ian Riccaboni, seems like most people are on Ian Riccaboni's side. And I saw a lot of people saying things like, it's his benching, so to speak, could be just attributed to his mediocre appearances. I've always liked Kevin Kelly. I thought it was awesome when he first came in and he was doing commentary with JR. I'm like, that's awesome because JR and Kevin Kelly, they called some Raws together back in 1996. I even think Kevin Kelly was on headset when Jim Ross turned heel and introduced fake Razor and fake Diesel. So they go way back from like mid-90s WWE. And I thought it was cool that he was brought in. Bixenspan mentioned something about how he was largely unsupervised on the English New Japan commentary and he was allowed just to do whatever he wanted. And people are kind of like shitting on his abilities now, but I've never really had a problem with Kevin Kelly as a play-by-play guy. I've liked him just fine. Never had a problem with him, but never really felt like he was done wrong or anything, so I'm not going to jump on let's just shit on Kevin Kelly bandwagon, shit on his commentating style, because I like his commentating style. I've thought he was enjoyable to listen to in New Japan. I liked him in WWE. He was there next to Brian Pillman during the whole gun incident. He's got a shoot interview from back in the day that's pretty entertaining to watch as well. And I've never had any, issue with Kevin Kelly, but I do see his social media. I do follow him. I do see the things he likes and engages with. And he's definitely not something that I think I could go out and have a beer with and really have a lot in common with. But other than that, I have no issue with the guy. What he does as his job, I've always been fine with. But sounds like people are going to be kind of piling on him here. But whatever his issue is behind the scenes, shut the fuck up, man. Put your phone down. He's literally tweeting this as Collision's going on the air, and they have a pay-per-view this weekend. I'm like, well, for somebody that has been around as long as you have, you should know that, especially with AEW, what they've already gone through, and these incidents that seem to happen before pay-per-views, even if it's minor, like there's always, what was the last one? I forgot what the last one even was. Something happened at World's End, didn't it? Or the weekend of? Was there some sort of online? Maybe Tony Khan had a meltdown, something like that. It was something like that, to where there was just something happened and distracted from the pay-per-view. It seems like that happens every time. So I'm not going to know what to do when AEW has a pay-per-view that just goes perfectly, where the whole weekend, everybody gets along. You don't hear about any fucking fights. Nobody's pissed off on social media. The pay-per-view is good. The attendance is high. All that shit. I'm going to be celebrating when that day happens. But you would think that AEW is long overdue for having a pay-per-view that just goes off without a hitch. Hopefully Revolution will be that, because this is, bigger than AEW. This is Sting, This is Sting's career that he is entrusting AEW with, giving him the proper send-off. It's going to be up to AEW to present and give the fans the final Sting send-off, and to have anything, especially like this, take away or distract from that, I think is really shitty. So if anybody else in AEW this weekend has a fucking problem, or is mad at Tony Khan, or mad at the janitor, or mad at whoever, shut the fuck up for 48 hours, please. Out of respect for Sting, I would appreciate, as a fan, as a big, big fan of AEW. I like the company just fine. I'm not tribal at all. I like WWE. I like AEW. I like wrestling because I'm a wrestling fan. Usually wrestling fans like wrestling, but that doesn't seem to be the case these days, especially on social media. But with me, I'm fucking normal. So I just like wrestling, and I would like you guys to behave yourselves this weekend if it is okay with you. So out of respect for Sting, what this night is going to mean for him tomorrow, the main event, everything surrounding it, and what should be an outpouring of love for Sting, don't throw a turd into the dryer, Just stop. Let Sting, let the fans have this weekend, and then on Monday, you can go right back to tearing each other's heads off. I don't give a fuck at this point. But at least for the next couple of days, if you got issues, keep them to yourself. Keep them to yourself. Just think about Sting. Think about Sting. Just think about Sting. Take a deep breath, count to 10, Eskimo pie, Coke and a smile, whatever you need. Whatever. Just do it. Shut up. Please. Thank you, AEW Locker Room. Appreciate it. Looking forward to tomorrow. Tama Tonga, by the way, we talked about his daddy earlier on, laughing his nutsack off, watching the Shockmaster debut. Tama Tonga apparently is heading to WWE. There's been a lot of rumors that Jacob Fatu could also be heading into the WWE as well. And if they do, there's only one place for these guys to be, and that is the Bloodline. And we haven't even talked about SmackDown yet. I know you guys have been waiting. We're about to get to it in a minute. But, he could be a big part of that. I don't know if you could have Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu both debut in the Night 2 main event and still have Cody Rhodes win. But I'll tell you this, that Night 2 main event will be Bloodline rules. For show. Faux show. Let's talk about this real quick. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I don't like the fact that Mick Foley wants to have a death match. Death matches are not meant to be taken literally. This one might be. This is a terrible idea. I don't even know what his true age is right now. Somebody can hit me with it in the chat. He's probably late 50s, right? maybe more. Shit, he might be 60 by now. And I met Mick Foley last year at WrestleMania. He's still awesome. Still the nicest motherfucker in the world. But he cannot be having a death match right now. Now, he talked about this a couple weeks ago. I didn't even bring it up on the podcast because I was like, no, he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. Mick Foley's smart. Despite the abuse Mick Foley has put his body and brain through in his career, he's somehow not lost his mental faculties. He doesn't have CTE. I don't know how he doesn't, but he doesn't. When I hear him on his podcast, his Foley's Pod, he speaks eloquently, clearly, and articulates well. Doesn't sound like, obviously he's getting a little bit older, but it feels like all of that is still really, really sharp. He's still a really intelligent man. So why is this intelligent man feeling the need at this point in his life? I mean, just watching him on those those treasure shows, watching him waddle around from place to place. Dude, we just love you is all. We just don't want you to die or hurt yourself seriously with something like that. It was really difficult to watch Ric Flair, stumble through that last match, and breathe so damn hard, that he almost died. I don't want to see Foley go through that. I don't want to look at Foley and feel bad for him and feel sad. And, it's not going to make me remember fondly the career that he's had, the moments he's had as Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Dude Love, and all of the wonderful matches he's had. I just can't envision him doing anything that would help that legacy anymore. You know what I mean? And it sounds like this is all personal stuff for him. It sounds like he had a YouTube video out where he kind of explained, I guess, his reasoning for wanting to do this. And it sounds like it's mostly focused on physical health as his main reason. I think his thought process is that if he trains for this death match, that'll really get the ball rolling on him staying in shape long term, because he talked about, how large he is. He's bigger than the airline seats and his weight balloons up. So he has, he has some definite concerns with his physical health that he wants to see get better. I just don't understand why he can't just exercise regularly. And it sounds like he needs something like this to get him in shape. It's almost like if you book a match, then it's there and you have no choice now but to get yourself in shape. And maybe he feels this could be a springboard to better physical health in the future as he gets older. But I just thought that his body was so broken down and so hurt. I didn't even know how much even DDT yoga, could really do for him, because he probably has so much long-term damage to his bones, joints, back, legs, all that stuff, that he's probably just going to be living in pain forever. But apparently this is something that he just really wants to do. And I did take down the last paragraph here. Here's what he said about being asked what he hopes to gain from this match. He says, quote, "Catharsis. I'm just looking for catharsis. In Japan, the fans are described as being oddly peaceful when they would leave because they had seen something. When it's done right, it can be a work of art or abstract art. When it's done right, it can be a work of abstract art. Some people will just see human beings putting each other into terribly inhuman situations, while others see two human beings working together to create surreal art. I'm hoping when it's done, there will be a sense of peace among the fans and a sense of inner peace for myself, even as my wounds stick to the sheets that night and for a few nights after. I'm pretty sure I'm going to come out of that situation in worse shape than I was, but I believe I will pick up habits that are going to lead to a longer, better life." There's better ways to do it, Mick. Here he is. He's already acknowledging that if he has this death match, he's going to cut his entire body up. I don't know if this is, a late life crisis or, just this yearning out, because you know what it's like to be inside the head of a legend. Ric Flair had trouble letting go for all these years and, would always come back way later and older than he needed to be, and blading and bleeding and wanting to be a part of it. Even Hogan did this to a degree. Undertaker stuck around for so long. Foley had a little bit shorter of a career, even though he would come back from time to time and get involved. He's gotten this itch now at whatever age he is. And it's just mind-blowing to me. I think this is a terrible idea. I just think it's a terrible idea. I don't think he needs to do this, because when you think about what kind of wrestler he is, if he just wanted to go through, if he worked Hacksaw Jim Duggan style and he just wants to walk through a match, sure. But he's doing a Mick Foley match where he's acknowledging it's going to be a death match. I'm going to have blood stick into my sheets for days after this. I want to bleed. I want to get hurt. I want to get injured. That's crazy. He's listed Jon Moxley and Matt Cardona as possible opponents. Now, the Moxley match would be interesting because they were scheduled to work a program in WWE before WWE doctors shut it down because Mick is just, not able to be cleared by those type of doctors. So to do this now, I feel like if Foley did a death match and he did it with Moxley, I think it would be more blood related and having violence that way than actual bumps. I think Mick Foley's going to bump and have a couple of bumps, but the Mick Foley of today cannot do any sort of bump anywhere close to what he did years ago. So I think the bumps are going to have to be minimal. I think the blood is going to have to be heavy, and they're going to have to rely on that. But I mean, in this day and age, 2024, when we've already had so many years and decades of hardcore matches and light tube matches, and we've had the Nick Gages out there, does Foley really need to do this? Does he need to spill 4 pints of blood? No, he doesn't. If he wants to do it, it's his life, it's his body. Do what you want. Do what you want. But as a fan, as a huge Mick Foley fan, I just want him to know that we don't need this. If you're doing this, you're doing it for you, because you don't need to do it for us. You've already left a lasting impression on all of us. You already have a Hall of Fame career. I will never forget the things Mick Foley has done. I've been lucky enough to meet this guy a couple of times. He is a goddamn sweetheart of a human being. And when you think about how nice he is, his reputation, and who he is, it's like watching a teddy bear get murdered. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. If you think of your favorite stuffed animal as a kid getting fucking murdered, like guts not like Ted, not like the Ted teddy bear where just fluff comes out, like blood and guts flying out of your favorite loving teddy bear. I don't want to see that. It wouldn't be entertaining to me. It would be disturbing. Mick Foley is an entertainer. Maybe some people are going to be entertained by this death match, but I'm not going to be. I'm going to be looking at it like this. I'm going to be looking at it through one eye. Like, I'm not even going to want to watch it because I'm going to be scared shitless that Mick Foley's going to die. Do we want that? Is that what we want for Mick Foley's legacy? He's just going to die right there in the ring, got back in the ring at age whatever and, didn't protect himself on a bump, snapped his neck. I don't want that. I don't want that. So I'm not Mick Foley. I'm not in his body. I don't know what his body is capable of, but when I watch him walk around on TV, it looks like just getting up from his chair and going to the bathroom hurts. So this guy is going to have a death match now. He's done it before. Obviously this is many years ago, 25 years ago, but he was not in good shape in mid to late 1999. After Owen Hart died, he was really concentrating and focusing on writing his book. He was wrestling in the sweatpants. He was really overweight. And then Austin got hurt, and Foley had to work that program and prolong his retirement a little bit to work the deal with Triple H as Cactus Jack and have the big Royal Rumble match. And remember the shape he got himself in for that? Remember how good a shape he was in for that? He was in really good shape, and he was slim for that. So Foley's done it before, and if he really, really wants to, he could probably get his body, passable. But I just worry that he's going to collapse or not be able to get up or something. So I just hope it works out. That's all. I just hope it works out. Let me just check something here. Okay, cool. We're good. We're good. Just readjusting here. Bear with me. But man, and I don't know if either or two, if Foley is going to do you think he's going to do something like Flair did, where maybe he's going to hit up Conrad? I mean, they did. Foley's pod, I think, is coming to an end or did come to an end, but maybe Conrad can promote this thing. It feels like that would be a likely possibility because Foley isn't going to be able to have this death match in WWE or AEW even. So this is going to have to be a separate private promoted thing. And I think Conrad might be just the guy to do that. So maybe that's the seeds he's planting here. Maybe since Conrad has already done the Ric Flair's last match, maybe they'll do the Foley's last match. And maybe this is going to be something Conrad's going to do where other legends are going to come to him. Hey, I want to do one more. DDP's last match. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a theme for Conrad. Another business venture for the big fella. Wouldn't be surprised at all. So we'll see. But as someone who loves Mick Foley, I do not want to see him have a death match. Because somebody might actually die. Somebody might actually die. Always Radio, of course. Moxley would take tremendous care of him. Whoever Mick Foley is in the ring with will lay down and die for him. I absolutely believe that. But it's his body. I mean, he's still, you can only take care of him so much. You still have to cut him. He's still going to have to blade. He's still going to have to fall on a bed of nails and shit. So you can only take care of him so much. It's not like he's, protecting him on suplexes and stuff. We're talking about nails, barbed wire. That's not your normal type of shit. So it's going to be crazy. I'm just going to scroll up a bit. I think I got a couple of quick supers to knock out before we get into our next topic here. We're almost there. It's almost time to talk about last night's SmackDown. See, we're an hour and 30 minutes in. Haven't even hit SmackDown yet. Okay, we're good. I think I just missed one. Divine Ricks. Thank you for $5, my friend, and always good to see you back in here. Hey, Greg, I got to say you and Salamonster are like the Rock and Austin of wrestling commentary. Much respect for both you guys. Keep up the great work. Thank you for that, Divine. Appreciate all the love on that video. I think that was the only super chat I missed. Oh, and Danny in Oak Park has got $2 for us. Conrad is a carny. Well, I like Conrad. I don't have anything against him, really. But he definitely likes to do a lot, that's for sure. He's got quite the wrestling memorabilia collection, too. Maybe we can rob him. I want that big gold. I want that big gold real bad. Anyway, our next topic that's at least on my notes anyway, I don't have a lot to say about it, but WWE has began their, I don't know what season they're on, but they're doing the A&E bios again. The first episode was Randy Orton this past Sunday, and the Rivals episode was on Triple H and The Rock. Both of them are really good. The Triple H and Rock Rivals was perfect to do right now with everything going on with Rock back in WWE, and he's making reference to his board member status and whatnot, and the fact that he can control things and nobody is his boss. And Triple H came out a couple of weeks ago and said that he is The Rock's boss, and man, it's a shame. It's a shame Triple H can't wrestle again because it kind of feels like they might be setting up something here between the two of them. But it was a really good Rivals episode chronicling their long history. And it is pretty cool as somebody that was in the building for a lot of those early Rock and Triple H matches to see them now. Rock, biggest star in Hollywood. Now he's a board member on TKO. And the two of these guys who were once heading up the Nation of Domination and D-Generation X and trading intercontinental titles on Thursday, Raw Thursday, are now right near the top of that food chain. I'm not sure who eats each other in that scenario. Probably Rock eats Triple H, but they're up there, and that's crazy. That's great. Like, just thinking about who I was as a fan back then, telling my 1998 self that would be wild. I'm not sure how I would react to that if I heard that. We have some news on SummerSlam. This year's SummerSlam might have a front runner. WrestleVotes tweeted out the other day, and I quote, SummerSlam 2024 has been rumored for Cleveland as Sean Ross Sapp hinted months ago. I'm told that through sources, WWE is close to finalizing a deal with Cleveland Browns Stadium to host the event on Saturday, August 3rd. Formal announcement should come in April. So look for Cleveland Browns Stadium. When I think of summertime and summer destinations, I do not think of Cleveland, but Cleveland has hosted a couple of SummerSlams, I think. 1996 for sure. There might be another one in there somewhere too. So SummerSlam back to Cleveland Stadium show. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. So hopefully the weather cooperates and it will not pour down rain and a tornado will not rip through there. That would be nice. What about John Cena this year at WrestleMania? You guys think he's going to do anything? Now, he's got that Ricky Stenicki movie out, which I haven't even seen a trailer for this thing yet, but apparently there is an OnlyFans account associated with this. John Cena has started an OnlyFans account under the Ricky Stenicki name, where I haven't seen any photos yet. I don't know if I want to. If it involves cooking oil and a cowboy hat, keep me away from it. But if this movie is out, you would think that maybe he would want to come in and do something for WrestleMania to really maybe help promote the movie or something. Apparently, Meltzer thinks that WWE is going to try to get him at Mania in some capacity to do something with substance, that's not just a quick little appearance or a wave, something that might actually mean something. Apparently, it will not be in a wrestling capacity. He might be in the middle of filming a movie right now, but if they do bring him in, apparently it will only be for an appearance, and they could find something fun for him to do. The Rock did shit for years. He came in and did the Ronda Rousey thing that year, beat Eric Rowan in that match. That one year he came out, just set his name on fire. He also had the big moment at WrestleMania 30 with Hogan and Stone Cold, and that could be something they do. Now that I think about it, a nice milestone mania like this, WrestleMania 30, WrestleMania 40, if you did something like you did at WrestleMania 30 and maybe opened up night one with a group of legends, and maybe you get your Cena, maybe you get your Austin, maybe you even get your Rock. Maybe Rock comes out there. He's got his own shit to do in the main event of night one, big tag match. But if he just was out there and made an appearance, a little side appearance at the beginning of the show with Cena and Austin, two men he has a lot of history with. A lot of history with both. I mean, a shit ton with Austin, but, of course, him and Cena did the 3 WrestleMania thing all those years ago. So if you try to recreate the Austin Rock Hogan moment with Austin Rock Cena at WrestleMania 40, that could be fun. Maybe you could even add a Shawn Michaels to that. Maybe you could even add a Triple H to that. Maybe you could even add an Undertaker to that. You never know. Imagine that. Imagine getting Rock, Austin, Undertaker, and Triple H all in the ring, which would be wild, but we're talking about Cena here. But I think that would be fun. WrestleMania 40, that's a milestone show. I am really hoping that they do some stuff like that. Like last year, even though WrestleMania 39 was fun, I had a blast in LA, there was a couple of disappointments. Number one, they didn't find a place for LA Knight on the show, but they had time to parade fucking Shane McMahon out there and The Miz a couple of times as he was the host. They found no place for LA Knight and no place for Bobby Lashley, who definitely should have been on the show, but instead was regulated to winning the Andre the Battle Royal on SmackDown and then just coming out with the trophy. They didn't do anything with him, and it was a huge disappointment. So now I've got these same feelings again, but with me wanting to see something cool like they did at WrestleMania 30, or where they've done in-ring segments with legends that weren't stupid, but, actually fun, that were actually fun. Maybe that one year I didn't love it. I guess it was WrestleMania 32. It was where Austin and Foley and Shawn came down and beat up, what was it, the League of Nations or something. I just didn't love that. It was cool to see everybody, but I just didn't love it. So, I want to be able to love this. And I think having Cena out there reconnecting with The Rock would be fun. Having Rock reconnect with Austin would be fun. Any sort of combination like that might be a good, smart thing to do for John Cena. Other than that, then you're what? You're talking Waller effect with Grayson, or Grayson Waller effect, or Waller effect with Grayson and Austin Theory is what I'm trying to say here. And maybe Cena gets a little bit of revenge on Theory by driving a wedge between him and Waller, or maybe just kicking the shit out of the both of them. I would love to see John Cena come in and either team up or have one final match with Randy Orton at some point. That would also be fun. If just for fun. I mentioned this one day on social media and somebody got butthurt about it, where I mentioned John Cena and Randy Orton winning the tag team titles together, just for fun. And we don't do that. You take away opportunities. I'm like, dude, I'm just talking for like a month. Remember when Edge and Hogan won the title? Just like that. Just chill. Just something for fun, just to put a smile on the fans' faces, not to be read into where it's not as deep as you want to make it. Just put the titles on these guys. Randy Orton and John Cena, they were the, number 1 and 2 of their era. And seeing them come together just for fun would be awesome. I would love to see like Grayson Waller and Austin Theory win the tag team titles and then Cena and Orton beat them for it and then lose the belts back to them. Who cares? But just something like that one day would be fun. Before John Cena's, in-ring days are completely done. Let's talk about Maxine Dupree. Poor Maxine. We love her. She was loudly booed at a house show this past week. There was a clip floating around social media where she's walking to the back after her match and she's selling. She's doing the right thing. She's selling. She even waves to the crowd as they're boo, you fucking suck or whatever. She had a terrible sell on the bonsai drop from Nia Jax. I think it was on Monday where she just didn't even move at all. But up until recently, most fans have really liked Maxine. I've really admired her energy. I think she's been a lot of fun when she would do something right and then celebrate. Yeah, it's kind of like the one in the Chase U, the little one in NXT. Like, I like her energy too. And I've thought that Maxine is really trying. She's not Charlotte or anything like that, but I felt like the backstage motivational skits were kind of fun. Her getting in the ring, doing some fun stuff for the worm and whatnot. It was entertaining to see, even though honestly, she probably was brought to the main roster a little bit too early. Maybe she isn't ready for this type of stuff in the ring. Of course, she has a 10 out of 10 look. It's ridiculously perfect, amazing, awesome look. I can understand why they would want her on TV all the time. She's also really added a lot, I think, to the women's wrestling gear. I just feel like I've noticed changes ever since she got here. She was wearing some unique stuff, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing this amazing improvement in Natalia's gear, and I think she's just brought in, I don't know anything about women's fashion, so if there's women in here, you can tell me how stupid or not stupid I am, but in terms of like just the style of the gear, it's looked better. A lot of it's looked very sexy. A lot of women have said, oh my God, she's made wrestling gear look sexy, and she's done a really good job of presenting herself different than every other women's wrestler. And now you see a lot of creativity and uniqueness in a lot of the women's gear. And maybe some of Maxine's stuff had something to do with that. But also, she really was getting the fans' support for the most part because of her energy. I always thought people were okay with Maxine Dupree, but you put her in a one-on-one match at a house show in front of a drunk crowd, maybe they're going to be a little bit more critical. But that's what you go to the show to do. There's been plenty of wrestlers who have sucked, who've had to go to the back and listen to fans shit on them. It's the way it is. Was it nice? No. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't yell and scream at this poor girl, like a fucking asshole. But that is wrestling. Wrestling fans are supposed to be vocal. Wrestling fans are supposed to boo. You guys have all been to wrestling shows. There's always some jack off that's just a little bit over the top behind you. You fucking suck. Your mom sucks dicks. Or, he just has to go a little bit too far. You can't just boo or cheer or whatever. There's always got to be somebody that's got to say something stupid, because he's at a wrestling show and they want to get reactions out of people. You've been to shows. A lot of people do things in the audience to get reactions out of everybody else. That's the way it is. But in terms of what happened to her, I think I'd worry more if somebody threw a water bottle and smashed her in the face. Then I would say, okay, let's bring this guy out back and a bunch of us hold him while one person beats on him. No problem. But that didn't happen. It was just fans being assholes, yes. Saying she sucked, yes. And, maybe being a little bit too vocal about it. But at the end of the day, you're signing up to do that. You sign up to be a professional wrestler. You better be prepared for fans to be unmerciful. And they will let you know you can't do anything. You can't slip on the ropes without 10,000 jackoffs chanting, you fucked up. So you know how the fans are. And Maxine knows she's a tough cookie. She's going to be just fine. I think I've concluded my news. 1 hour and 47 minutes into this podcast, give or take. We have concluded the news, and now we can talk about SmackDown. Let me get my chat set up here. So I'm going to do one thing real quick. I've had my fan on for the whole podcast, and now I'm cold. So I'm going to step away for 1 second and turn it off. Be right back. And while I was there, I might have grabbed another cold one because it's Saturday night. That's why. So we're going to talk about SmackDown now because holy shit, WWE did a lot of work over the last 2 days, specifically The Rock. Man, how good was that stuff? How good was that shit yesterday? It all started on Instagram. yesterday, The Rock releases what had to be a good 20-minute promo on Instagram where he is just eviscerating Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And of course, he's very repetitive. He's saying the same shit over and over. But that's kind of The Rock's style, and you kind of get used to that. If you take out all the repetitive stuff and you take out a lot of the bullshit, this was tremendously good. This was tremendously good. And I've gotten over, any brief period of anger I had towards The Rock of him coming in and taking away Cody Rhodes' WrestleMania main event. They've made it right now. So I have no reason to be pissed at him. Now I can look at The Rock and appreciate him the way I wanted to. I want to appreciate The Rock being involved in storylines. I want to be happy that he's here. I want to be entertained by what he does. I want to enjoy the time he's giving us. I don't want to resent him. I don't want to be mad at him. I don't want to be annoyed that he stepped in and took a main event away from Cody Rhodes. And what appeared to be the case, I would have had a lot of bad feelings towards The Rock. I didn't want to have any of those feelings. I really, really like The Rock. So the fact that we've dissected it to death in the past, few episodes here. So however this came about, obviously it wasn't the original plan. The WWE had to pivot and make some changes, but they have really fallen into something here that I think is even more compelling than what it would have been originally. And this is going to be a tremendous ride. I'm very optimistic. I'm hoping that there's not going to be any Triple H or Rock pettiness, and they're not going to cut Cody's legs off at WrestleMania or anything like that. If this story plays out the way I think they have a chance to have one of the most exciting and successful WrestleMania main events of all time, where maybe it would have been a little bit predictable if it was just Cody and Roman one-on-one and that's it. So this is way better, and man, did Rock talk about a lot here. So basically in the Instagram promo, what he did here was explain what happened and why Cody originally stepped aside to let The Rock face Roman Reigns only to change his mind. And this is the explanation that we've kind of been wanting. We thought we were going to get it a couple of times. When Cody came out to the ring on Raw, even on that one Raw, he basically just said, the reason I'm going to WrestleMania is because all of you, almost acknowledging that the reason he's going there is because that's what the creative is doing now, because you guys spoke up. But that still wasn't really good enough. This has to play into your storyline. To Cody Rhodes' story, you now have to find a way to take this fuck up that you did and weave it in to the ongoing story in a way that makes sense. I did not think they could do it, y'all. I'm like, no matter what you do here, Cody's going to look like a fucking idiot for stepping aside. And in a lot of ways, he still does. This is still not perfect. Cody still does look bad for doing that. But the way they explained it, I think, was about as best as they could have done. This is the best case scenario in my mind for how WWE is explaining to us why Cody agreed to step aside, why he told Roman Reigns that he's coming after him, but not at WrestleMania. And Rock said and referenced in the promo the head of the table line that he delivered on that first Raw of the year, where he was just testing the waters of if the fans would want to see me and Roman Reigns. And then, of course, the response was overwhelming. And he says, but then Cody won the Rumble. And Cody won the Royal Rumble. Now he's going to have a shot to challenge Roman Reigns, but that's a match that I want. So he said that he talked to Cody. We talked. I explained why this is important and best for business and yada, yada. And he said that Cody agreed. Cody agreed in their conversations to step aside. And that's when he came out on TV and he hugged The Rock and he walked away. And he talked about how Cody turned back and looked. I mentioned it that night. That's why I wasn't buying it right away. I'm like, look, you saw Cody turn around. The camera focused on him turning around. The fact that they were making that such a thing might have been like an insurance policy, so they can call back to that in case they have to pivot. I don't know if they had that much forward thinking or not, but it was good that the camera caught him doing that. And Rock mentioned that. And then he said, we get all the way to the WrestleMania kickoff in Vegas. We saw each other that day, and he didn't say shit about it in Vegas until they got out onto the stage. And he said that Cody went back on his word, and then he had the audacity to trash his family when the family tree was up on the screen. Went on to say, I think he said, fuck your story, which is good. You can't say that on SmackDown. You can't even show certain signs on SmackDown, apparently. But he said, fuck your story. He called Pharaoh a goofy-ass dog. That might be where I draw the line, Rock. If he called Tito goofy-ass Tito, I'd be really pissed. Although Tito's pretty fucking goofy. But calling Pharaoh a goofy-ass dog popped me. And he went through a little shade at Seth Rollins as well, because the challenge hadn't quite been laid down yet, but Seth is a part of this. And he threatened Rollins, saying that he could use his position to make anybody else in that company champion if he wanted to, and warned him to watch his shit. So this went on for like 20 minutes. I think he even came back and cut another 6 minutes of shit talking too. So it was just shit talking, just a lot of insults and whatnot. But in terms of the story now that they're telling, the story is that Rock wanted to have a match against Roman Reigns. He mentioned it on TV. The fans supported it overwhelmingly, which gave him the motivation to actually want to do it. Then Cody won the Rumble. He knew, because Cody fought Roman last year and lost, that he'd want to face him again. So he talked to Cody, convinced Cody to let him have the match against Roman Reigns, and Cody can finish his story at another time. And Cody agreed. Now, that's the only remaining hole, really, because I still have a hard time, based on what we've seen from Cody and his story all year long, I have a hard time believing that the character Cody Rhodes would be okay with that, even if it is The Rock. I mean, The Rock would have to do a lot of convincing. And Cody, to step aside, when you think about the motivations of his story, him wanting to win one specific championship for one specific person. He wants to win that title for his dad. That's where he wants to win it. And when you win that at the main event of WrestleMania, there really is no better stage. Perhaps only second to Madison Square Garden, the same building where Dusty did not win that championship. But again, that was before the era of WrestleMania even existed. That was 7 or 8 years before WrestleMania even started. So that was way before then. Nowadays, modern era, stadium show, main event, WrestleMania, those are the matches that are immortalized. Those are the matches that are, set in history. And when you are at the top of that 40th WrestleMania as the winner, winning the title, celebrating that moment for your dad, that's Cody's story. So it is weird that no matter what Rock told him, even if Rock was making a lot of sense, that Cody would really step aside. So they explained it, or at least The Rock explained it, and I was satisfied with that. I'm like, you know what? At least they tried. At least they tried, and at least they put forth some effort to clean up their mess. And I really thought that they did a good job of clearing those plot holes and explaining things. And they would go on, or Rock would go on to do more, because we haven't even talked about SmackDown yet. Then we had SmackDown last night. So we got the first 20 minutes of The Rock on social media. Then we got an additional 40 of the Bloodline on SmackDown. So you're talking here a full hour of storytelling groundwork and cleanup that WWE did yesterday was awesome. And this was a great opening segment on SmackDown. My God. Bloodline opens up the show. No Rock. Paul Heyman says that Rock will be joining us after the commercial break. During all of this, they ain't being subtle at all about Roman being uncomfortable. Roman feels like he's second fiddle. You barely even saw him. When he's standing next to The Rock and The Rock's in his colorful bullshit, Roman does not stand out the way he did before. And so you could see noticeable kind of frustration on Roman Reigns' face. Of course, Solo never says anything. Jimmy doesn't know what the fuck's going on. We go to commercial, we come back, and out comes The Rock. And now he's wearing one of those old school shirts. It's got a little blue in it. It looks great. It looks exactly like the same exact shirt he would have worn in like the year 2000. The one last week too, with like the couple weeks ago with the sleeves cut off, that vest design looked really similar to one of his previous ones as well. So he comes out in one of those way more than $500 shirts tucked into his pants, which was hilarious. Gets in the ring, and of course he's got the glasses on, and just seeing heel Rock there and being a part of this is super fun. And he congratulates Phoenix on being the #1 city in the country in cocaine and meth use, which was great. Starts shitting on the Phoenix crowd a lot. Some people were complaining on social media about Fox blacking out SmackDown. They put the whole entire unedited segment on their YouTube channel. So that whole segment is available, all whatever many minutes of it is, completely full. So I watched it on that, but apparently fans were saying that Fox was blacking out the screen because somebody in the crowd had a Die Rocky Die sign, which is hilarious because I'm like, are you kidding me? Die Rocky Die? Fox is blocking that out? Okay, but apparently it really harmed the watchability of that segment. So Rock shits on the crowd a little bit. Roman has kind of got a funny look on his face. He's not really soaking up the enjoyment too much because he's got a lot on his mind as well. And that's when The Rock decides to address Cody Rhodes' challenge, because don't forget, even though Rock issued his own challenge on SmackDown, it was Cody that issued the challenge first. And Cody issued a challenge to The Rock at Elimination Chamber. And we talked about that because Seth Rollins was there, and then Seth Rollins offered to just be at Cody's side. And I'm like, none of this is making sense, because we all thought that after we saw that WrestleMania teaser, obviously the tag match, all of the signs pointed to the tag match. They set that up on the kickoff show. Even before the four guys got in each other's faces, Triple H referenced the WrestleMania 1 tag team main event, and having a throwback to that on night 1 seemed very possible right off the bat. Then they went and released that WrestleMania teaser where all four men are facing each other. And this is the same shit like with the Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch face-off that made the Elimination Chamber match so predictable, because they did the face-off at the kickoff, telling you that's the match we're going to see. So when all four of those guys faced off, you had a feeling that, they might do a tag. If they do, that's going to mean double duty for one or as many as 3 participants in these matches, but that might have to be the way it is. But with Seth's knee being injured, we weren't sure if that was going to be possible for him. Granted, in a tag, he could be a little bit more protected, but he has to defend his championship against Drew McIntyre. So in this scenario, somebody, no matter what, somebody is going to have to miss out on a main event, a WrestleMania main event. Because if it would have been Roman and Rock, then Cody would have missed out. If Seth Rollins defends his title against Drew McIntyre on night 1 of WrestleMania, then The Rock misses out. And now with this tag match at WrestleMania, Seth gets his main event, but Drew McIntyre does not. He is going to get his title shot, but Drew McIntyre's title shot will now come on night 2, which is going to be weird. We're going to have both championship matches on the same night. McIntyre is desperate and thirsty for that victory, that WrestleMania victory. I don't think Drew McIntyre walks out of WrestleMania as the champion where we sit right now. I think it's going to be Damian Priest, but that's a whole nother story. So no matter what, someone was going to lose out on a main event. It looks like McIntyre is going to be the one to lose out here. He's going to get a big title match, WrestleMania title match, but it's not going to be a main event. It might be the curtain jerker on night 1. We don't know yet. So I guess he's going to get the shit end of the stick on that, because if you do that tag match, it has to be your main event. Not only is The Rock in it, both world champions are in it, and Cody Rhodes. It's going to be the biggest tag team match in WrestleMania history. Find me a bigger one. Not even that first one. Sorry, The Rock's a bigger star than Mr. T. I mean, Mr. T was huge in the 80s, but he was huge just for a handful of years there. The Rock has done a lot more in his career. But I can't think of any other tag team match, even that one with Jericho and Mickey Rourke and shit. Nothing even will come close to this. And I think that's great. I think that's a really cool throwback match. Now that you have 2 nights of WrestleMania, you can actually have a tag team match in your main event, just like you did last year, only the championships were on the line. But having a throwback to that will be fun. I think the match could be amazing. And as we're going to talk about here, I'm going to tell you why, because Rock adds a stipulation. So the first thing he does was respond to Cody Rhodes' challenge that he issued at the Elimination Chamber. That's when we got off track talking about the tag and how it may or may not happen. So The Rock says flat out, no. He says no to Cody's challenge. He says you can't just go one-on-one with the Great One whenever you want. He says all the women want to go one-on-one with him. And then he says, calm down, you crackhead Karens and you methhead Marys. There's no way you are ready for The Rock's 22 inches of heaven. I also think he called it his hot Moses or what. What did he call it? Hot Moses? I don't know what he called his strudel down there, but talked about his 22 inches of heaven and his hot Moseses. I was getting lost there. But he denies Cody Rhodes basically the match and says, no, I'm not going to face you one-on-one, but we here in the Bloodline, we're businessmen, and I will offer you a counter offer. And he counters Cody's challenge with a challenge of his own. And he challenges Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins in a tag team match to face himself and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, specifically WrestleMania. That's where he wants the match to happen. And he's adding some stakes to the match. And this is great. I'm glad that this is not just a straight up match. There are actually stakes here. The Rock says that in this match, if Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins win, then there will be no Bloodline in Cody's match with Roman Reigns on night 2. Bloodline is banned. But if The Rock and Roman Reigns wins, then it's Bloodline rules, which means anything goes and whoever wants to interfere can interfere. That kind of, to me, at least I hope, gives away the ending to the match. Because Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes absolutely needs to be Bloodline rules. Absolutely. I want to see craziness here, you know? Like sometimes when you go crazy with a dusty finish or overbooking, sometimes it can get a little bit ridiculous. Overbooking is not always good, but it's not always bad either. And maybe I'm just way too optimistic. Maybe my hopes are just way too high. But I feel like Roman and Cody has the potential to be one of the greatest wrestling matches ever in terms of, like, let's say you wanted to show a non-wrestling fan pro wrestling. Maybe they give you shit about being a pro wrestling fan. Can I just show you one match? Can I just show you why I like this stuff? And then show them Cody and Roman. And just like I said, overbook the fuck out of it. Somebody's got to be a double agent here. Either The Rock is working with Cody, that I theorized from the very beginning. One of the first things I said is that Cody and Rock might be doing an Austin and Tyson from 1998. And if you tie that in, you got The Rock out there interfering. You might have some debuts like a Jacob Fatu or a Tama Tonga. Obviously, you're going to have Jimmy Uso out there. Obviously, you're going to have Solo out there. Jey Uso could maybe even run out there. I want to see fans running in the ring. I want to see somebody's grandma coming in the ring trying to attack Solo Sikoa. I want to see Cody's mom hit a shooting star press on Jimmy Uso. I want to see at least one wrestler come back from the dead and be resurrected and attack someone. I want to see everything in the world thrown at this. I want Pharaoh to do a run-in. I want Cody's kid to do a run-in. I want Brandy to run in there and smack a bitch. I want everything that you can possibly concoct in your brain to happen in this match. I want it to be fun. I want it to be a plan, a carefully orchestrated, well laid out plan of chaos to where we are just taking on a goddamn roller coaster ride of insanity. And at the end of the day, you have your big finish, whether it's Rock turning on the Bloodline, which I really feel like is going to happen. We're going to talk about that in a second. Or something going awry. Some sort of swerve has got to happen to where Roman Reigns and especially Solo Sikoa, you got to replay at some point in the match the spike. You have to redo the whole thing. It's got to be the same scenario. Cody with Roman in the crossroads. Solo comes out, maybe hits Cody with a spike, but maybe this time he kicks out. Maybe this time he kicks out, or maybe he blocks the spike. Maybe The Rock blocks the spike. Who knows? But at some point, you have to at least do that moment as well in the match. And I just want to see balls out chaos. That's what I want. And in order to get there, you're going to have Roman Reigns and The Rock win on night one somehow. I don't know how you do that, if you win clean. If you're going to debut any new Bloodline members, if a Tama Tonga or a Jacob Fatu or both are going to debut at WrestleMania, I debut them on night one, not night two. Because night two, you're debuting and then losing at the same time. You debut on night one. Think about that. Think about that. 1 or 2 new Bloodline members debuts in that tag match, costs Cody and Seth the match. Now it's Bloodline rules, and now there's even more Bloodline members than there was at the beginning of the day. So now Cody, the next night, has to go into that Bloodline rules against the already extremely dangerous Bloodline, who now has 2 or 1 brand new members. It's going to be, remember last year, Cody, and maybe fans are right, Cody didn't face enough adversity. He won, he came in number 30 in the Rumble and then went right into WrestleMania after being injured. That was his first match back, wasn't it? The Rumble? Then he wins and then he goes into Mania. So fans that wanted adversity, they kept saying that. They're not really wrong. Maybe he did need a little bit more. I argue that he could have still won the title and it would have been fine, but if you wanted him to face adversity, he is sure as shit faced it now, hasn't he? And if he does go into that match, he's going to be facing, like Daniel Bryan WrestleMania 30 odds here. Daniel Bryan had to have that match with Triple H, which he did win, but then Triple H fucked him up and put him through a table and he got his ass stretchered out. And he still managed to come back and beat 2 other guys that both double him in size and have both won multiple world championships before. And he beats them both, and overcame unbelievable odds at that WrestleMania and getting there, and now Cody, he's going to have odds, I think, even greater than that, especially if he finds himself losing on night one. And I think maybe it's a rock bottom and to Cody in the pin for the win or something, where Rock beats Cody and Roman loses to him, driving even more of a wedge. So Rock says that he wants Cody and Seth's answer next week in Dallas. So next week on SmackDown is when Cody and Seth are supposed to answer this challenge. But here's my question. If they're both going to be on Monday Night Raw this week, what do they need to think about? Are they pondering this to themselves? Should we do it? I don't know, man. Let's take another 4 weeks or 4 days, to think about this. You would think that the minute the challenge was issued, they'd be like, yeah, fuck it, we'll kick your asses. Of course we accept. Why do they need a week to think about it? So on Monday, what are they going to say? Are they obviously one or both of them are going to have an interview, at least backstage or in the ring or something, or a promo in the ring or an interview backstage where this is going to get brought up. Is Cody and Seth going to say, you have to wait and hear what our answer is? The fans know what your answer is. The answer is yes. So if I'm Cody and Seth, I would just say on Raw, we don't give you your answer when you say we do. You say you want our answer on Friday. We're giving it to you now, right here. Yes, that's our answer. I don't see how Cody and Seth don't do that on Monday night. What would be the possible justification for them not just on Monday saying, fuck yeah, we accept? Unless they're attacked and they're not given, look for that. Look for Cody to be attacked backstage or something like that, to where maybe they're both knocked out of the show to where they don't have the opportunity to speak or be in front of a camera. Because otherwise, if they are, their characters, we know them to be as baby faces, are accepting that challenge immediately with no hesitation. So I don't think we need to really wait until Dallas. I think you can get all 4 men in the ring in Dallas next Friday on SmackDown. But you certainly don't need to wait for their answer that long. So I would turn Rock's words on him. The way he was talking to Cody, you don't get to decide when you go one-on-one with the Great One. If I was Cody, I would say, you don't get to decide when we answer your challenge. So we're answering it right now. We're not going to give you, your moment in Dallas. We'll just be there to confront you instead. But, we accept. That's what I would do. So that whole thing was laid out there in the beginning. And The Rock did a great job in this role. He is amazing. He's amazing. We got to remember, this is a Hollywood actor here. This guy has had a lot of experience, and being able to change direction apparently as quickly as they did, and not only going with this heel Rock character, but running with it and running with it well. And now his material is just a lot less tired out. He's always going to be The Rock, and he's always going to have his silly little insults, but it's so much better when he's in heel form, because we've had a lot less heel Rock than we've had babyface Rock. And just to see him back involved is great. Now it feels actually good to see The Rock back. Now I'm not threatened by him being here. I don't resent him or anything like that. I don't feel like he's getting in Cody's way. His involvement at WrestleMania helps WrestleMania, where if he would have just gone on night 2 and faced Roman Reigns, I think it would have hurt the show. Now his presence makes it better. And it's setting up a ton of shit for the future, y'all. You saw it. You saw it last night. Watch Roman Reigns' body language through this whole thing. The way he was standing there, the look on his face, with The Rock, sucking up all the air in the room and taking up all the attention. And Roman is just sitting there. So after Rock says his piece and shits on the crowd and issues the challenge he's about to do, If You Smell, and Roman stops him. Roman stops the If You Smell, grabs the mic, and he asks The Rock, he goes, I need something from you. He let it simmer for a minute, but you knew what he was going to say. He goes, I need something before we go any further. I just need something from you. I need you to acknowledge me. And there was big match setup vibes there with that stare between the two of them. And I'm like, I love this, because not only are they're telling multiple stories at once here with Cody and WrestleMania, but now you got to remember that Rock and Roman Reigns was the original plan, and Rock and Roman Reigns is still what we're going to get at some point. So it's really starting to feel likely that on the other side of WrestleMania, whether The Rock flat out turns on Roman Reigns in that match or not, and if The Rock isn't a double agent, like some people speculate he might be, if he's not a double agent, then it might just be a wedge driven between, driven between Rock and Roman during the course of WrestleMania. Because imagine if Rock pins Cody on night 1, but then Cody beats Roman on night 2. And then Roman is going to be like, I'm going to get my championship back. And Rock's going to be like, no. I'm going to get the shot against Cody. I'm the one who beat him. By the way, he also challenged me. You proved you couldn't get it done. So I'm going to go get the belt back. And maybe you got Rock and Cody at SummerSlam or something. But Rock and Roman Reigns is definitely going to happen, because they were really setting that up with the stare they were giving each other. And with Roman Reigns actually demanding that The Rock acknowledge him. And then The Rock does, was a moment. It's the first time he's ever done that. He gets on the mic and he says, all right, I acknowledge you, Roman Reigns, as my tribal chief, is what he said. Points right at him. And then he tells the fans to go home and smoke some crack. And then we get the If You Smell what the bloodline is cooking. Roman finishes that line. So they all do the fingers as the bloodline music plays, and Rock's got his finger up, and he just kind of just does that a little bit, in and out with the L. You still don't know what the L is referencing. He keeps saying that he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that Cody loses. So I think the idea here is to make the fans think that that L means Cody loses, but it could be a hint and evidence to the fact that he is, in fact, in cahoots with Cody Rhodes or playing a double agent role or whatnot. So that was a tremendous segment. It took up like the first 40 minutes of SmackDown. It took up a ton of time, but you know what? It was necessary. It really was. It was necessary to get this done, because now, after yesterday, between The Rock's Instagram post and last night's SmackDown, I feel satisfied creatively as a fan and a lot less disorganized with this whole situation, because the Cody stuff, it's been bugging me. It's been bugging a lot of fans why he would step aside, and it's been up to WWE to explain that. Was it perfect? No. Does Cody still look like a little bit of an idiot? Yes. But all things considered, I really think WWE did the best job they could to make it make as much sense as possible. Solid effort. Solid effort. And now you've set up a lot of fun here. I'm excited for the tag match. I think that's going to be fun. Granted, like I said, I think the outcome is predictable because I feel like Roman and Rock have to win just so that match can be Bloodline rules the next night. It has to be that way. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't. If Cody won, both nights of WrestleMania, I don't know. I think that's too much. I think it's got to be Roman Reigns and The Rock getting the win here and making night 2 your Bloodline rules match where you go balls out insane with your booking. I want everybody and their mother running into this thing and getting involved. And then in the end, something happens, whether it's a swerve or Rock turning on Roman or some miscommunication with the Bloodline, or Cody gets some unexpected help. Maybe Austin comes out there and stuns Rock off into oblivion. Who knows what they do? But Cody winning the title in a match that's overbooked and crazy would be like the ultimate tribute to his dad, would it not? Especially if you have some really crazy shit in there happening. And I think if you got plenty of time, if you really carefully plan this out and all your minds get together and say, how can we make this the most motherfucking fun thing the fans have ever goddamn seen? That's what I want to see happen here. And like I said, I want to see a match to where if you have someone in your life that gives you shit for being a wrestling fan, that you say, can I just show you this? Just so you don't think I'm so crazy. And when you show them a match with, just say, watch this and just watch everything that happens. Watch the roller coaster of drama that it takes them on, and then when it's over, they might still not like wrestling, but at least they'll say, okay, that was pretty good. That was pretty entertaining. So I want a match like that. I want one that, is remembered and will go down in history as one of their better main events. And having a WrestleMania milestone like this, the 40th WrestleMania, I think the other day I said 40th anniversary, but it's the 40th WrestleMania. This needs to be a special one. And I think with all the players involved, everything's set up to make it that. It really is. So I have gone on a roller coaster ride myself over the past couple of months of being up and down on this ever since the beginning of the year when Rock made that comment and we got a little nervous and then Punk got injured and then Cody stepped aside. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And now I feel like we're back on track and it feels fun again. Now I'm super optimistic, even with Punk being out and stuff, everybody's just killing it right now. I think this WrestleMania is going to be a lot of fun. So even though they took up a fuck ton of time last night on SmackDown, I think it was necessary to plug a lot of those holes, to smooth a lot of that out and give us a firm storyline with, these top 4 guys going into WrestleMania 40. I think they did a tremendous job. And I thought that segment last night on SmackDown was money. Very good stuff. Unfortunately, we didn't have a whole lot of time to do other wrestling on the show last night because we had Tiffany Stratton defeated Naomi in about 3 minutes, and apparently there was no entrance for Naomi either. Well, shouldn't have walked out. Should you have? I'm kidding. That match was probably affected by Rock apparently going long. Apparently Rock went a little bit long in the segment, and that took up some extra time, and they had to cut some time. So Tiffany defeated Naomi. Still don't know. Well, we'll talk about Tiffany in a minute. We had the big tag team match. It was Bayley and Dakota Kai taking on the Kabukis. Now, this is where Dakota predictably turned on Bayley. I never believed her for a second when she was in the ring with Bayley a few weeks ago. I didn't know what they were doing and I didn't know how to tell you or whatever. So you had a feeling that Dakota, who we have to remember who this girl is. This is the one that kicked poor Tegan's head off in the fucking War Games match. So she has a history of doing this. And it's Bayley and Dakota. Bayley's getting her asses kicked. She's going kind of for the hot tag. And Dakota jumps off the apron. Rick Martel, WrestleMania 5 style. No F you, laughs. I think this match just got thrown out as a no contest, and Damage Control beat the hell out of Bayley, and now Damage Control is back reunited. Bayley is officially out of the group. Dakota Kai is in, and Bayley is all on her own heading into her championship match against Io Sky at WrestleMania, and Io Sky has 3 friends to back her up. Bayley has got no friends to back her up. The best friend she does have is about to be doing some big business in about 12 days, and she got no one. So I don't know how Bayley is going to be able to overcome these odds. Not everybody at WrestleMania is going to drop their belts, so someone has to retain. Maybe Io is that person, but I feel like Bayley, much like Cody, is probably going to win here. I think maybe Rhea Ripley retains over Becky Lynch, if anything else. But one thing that was interesting about this is what happened backstage. I think this was kind of big because after the match, you see Damage Control walking through the backstage area, and they're confronted by Jade Cargill. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why would they even have Jade back there at all, since we still haven't seen her sign officially with the brand yet, I don't think. And she hasn't done anything else other than appear backstage. So why would she just happen to be walking past the Kabukis? Why would the writing team do that? I think it might be because I put up a Twitter poll right the day after the Royal Rumble about this. When Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill had their confrontation at the Royal Rumble, I put up a poll. What would you rather see? Bianca Belair and Jade one-on-one, or Bianca and Jade versus the Kabukis for the tag team titles? I think the one-on-one match won the poll, but I've always had the tag match in the back of my head for these two because they teased the thing at the Rumble. So there definitely is something there. They're not just putting them together because they're two tall, buffed black women. There actually is a history. They put them together in the Rumble. They had the stare down. Fans have been dream matching these two for a couple of years now. And we've also heard reports about Jade Cargill, maybe not being fully ready, plans for her to be in matches, and then she was pulled, and maybe she's not fully ready for the main stage one-on-one yet. And if you were to do Bianca and Jade, maybe you run the risk of Jade being outclassed because Bianca has a lot more experience than Jade, and maybe Jade is not quite there yet. But you still want to feature Jade because look at her, you want her to be a part of WrestleMania. It would be huge for her if she was. But if you don't want her to go out there and, and maybe risk, a poor performance in a one-on-one match, maybe you team her and Bianca up. I mean, I'm fine with that. Bianca's been doing a whole lot of just the same for a while. She's still not turned heel or done anything different with her character, and she's already had a couple of long title runs, so she's kind of out of the title picture for the moment. What else is she fucking doing? People have said she could face Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania. Great. That would be a really good match, but that would also be a really good match on SmackDown. So I think something that would look better on the marquee would be Bianca teaming up with Jade to take on the Kabuki. So we'll see if they follow up with this. There was no Bianca on SmackDown last night. It was just Jade coming face to face with the Kabukis. But if that happens again, maybe next week, it's Bianca coming face to face with him. And then her and Jade come together. Hey, I had problems with Kabukis. Hey, so did I. Fuck those Damage Control hoes. Let's challenge them to a tag title match. And I think the visual of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill holding up the tag team titles at WrestleMania would be an amazing sight to see. Only problem is you have to wonder if that would then not be so good for Bayley. That might spell disaster for her. I don't know if they want to have Damage Control lose all the titles at WrestleMania. Bayley beats Io and the Kabukis lose to Bianca and Jade. I don't know if that's what they want to do. I feel like maybe Io would retain in that scenario. So if it does turn out to be Bianca and Jade and they do find themselves a common enemy here in Damage Control and they get a tag team title shot at WrestleMania, it'd be like the Brothers of Destruction winning the titles. It'd be awesome. It would be fucking awesome. But if that happens, maybe you then have Io Sky retain over Bayley. That's a possibility. But the fact that Jade ran into Damage Control, that perked my ears up real quick because I'm like, oh, okay, so that could turn out to be fun after all. I love that possibility. And plus, at some point also, we are going to get Bianca and Jade one-on-one somewhere down the line. Maybe a team first, putting with Jade with an experienced wrestler to help maybe get her feet wet more on the main roster until she's more acclimated. She gets some more miles and ring time and shit like that is good. And then when she's ready, you got yourself a pre-made, program here, just ready and waiting whenever you want to break Jade and Bianca up. And that might be a great way to turn Bianca heel. Like if Bianca turns on Jade, you could do the whole thing. There's so many, we've seen the tropes in wrestling before, but if you put Bianca and Jade together, they win the titles, they start having a run, we see what that's like for a while. And then maybe Jade starts outshining Bianca a little bit. Maybe they're focusing, because Bianca's got the reality show and, and she's had a lot of exposure, the ESPYs and things like that. So both of these women are out there in the public eye. They're both, stupidly gorgeous women, and there might be a natural competition between the two. And if Jade starts getting more attention, TV time, modeling contracts, whatever they're competing for, if it seems like Bianca is behind, maybe she grows frustrated, or maybe Jade turns into the cocky heel. Maybe Jade is more like Shawn Michaels was when he was with Diesel, taking the spotlight, running in front of the camera, that type of thing, and so maybe there's that struggle that divides them eventually that kickstarts their feud. But I've felt for, the better part of a year or two now that Bianca Belair is long overdue for a heel turn. So maybe some jealousy over Jade is a good way to kickstart that. But first, you got to put them together. You have to have them win the title. The fans have to enjoy that. Then you can start planting the seeds for dissension. But Jade Cargill running into the Kabukis raised a red flag for me and told me that tag team match that we just kind of casually mentioned a couple of months ago might actually happen now. So that's interesting. We also had a Braun Breaker squash this fucker in 3 seconds. Bell rang, spear, boom, 1, 2, 3, match was over. And Braun Breaker annihilated this kid. He is my pick as of right now to win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I mentioned the Battle Royal earlier on. I would absolutely love it if they would put that back on the main card. There's 2 nights of WrestleMania. It should not be impossible to squeeze this in. It's just crazy to me. Even if it has to be on the kickoff, which I don't want it to be, but even if it had to, like the kickoff of night 2 or something, then fine, but just don't do it on SmackDown. It fucking sucks on SmackDown. It doesn't make any sense. So putting it at WrestleMania would be great. It started at WrestleMania 30, and it started in a great way with Cesaro body slamming the Big Show over the top rope to win the Battle Royal. It felt like that Battle Royal was going to mean something. It felt like that Battle Royal was going to be a springboard to a push for a lot of wrestlers, especially with that first winner being Claudio. But it was shit for the next 10 years. So now we're back, WrestleMania 40. You have a chance to maybe reset here this Battle Royal and put it on the main card, have Braun Breaker tear the fuck through everyone, and give him that WrestleMania moment, winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I don't think he's going to be the contender or the challenger for Gunther. I think Battle Royal would be better for him, and put that shit on the main card. I know they're not gonna. I know it's going to be on SmackDown because they fucking suck, but I don't understand why it can't be on the main card. Maybe you could make an argument when it was just a one-night WrestleMania, but now with 2, I just don't understand. Don't understand why it's not on the main card. Stupid. Well, maybe this year it will be. Fingers crossed. Then we had Carlito defeating Santos Escobar in a street fight. Carlito got some help. Santos had his new Legado del Fantasma members out there, but Carlito received help from a returning Rey Mysterio, who comes to the ring and helps Carlito put Santos through a table and get the win in that street fight. Then we had something interesting happen backstage on SmackDown. We had Tyler Bate and Peter Dunne talking to Nick Aldis, and they were asking him for another tag team title shot. And he said that he can't give them one right now, but to stay tuned because him and Adam Pearce have a future announcement about the tag team championships coming soon. So sounds like I'm finally getting my wish. It's taken forever, but I've mentioned this a lot in podcasts over the past few months, especially after we heard the reports of WWE screen testing new sets of WWE Tag Team Championship belts. Once I heard that, I'm like, great, they're about to figure this out. Maybe it's a redesign for the women and a consolidation for the men, or maybe we're going back to 2 separate tag team titles again. The fact that Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne asked for a title shot, and Aldis said, hang tight, I'm going to have an announcement soon, makes me think they're splitting the titles back up again. I don't think you need to do that. I really like having the floating champions. I think that works. I think we've seen that it works. The tag team championships have meant more. I hate that there's 4 belts. I wish they would consolidate them, but the longer they took to consolidate them, the more it told me that they're going to unconsolidate them at some point. So Priest and Balor have been running around there with 4 belts, and it just felt like at some point WWE was going to decide to give each brand their tag team championship again. I'm just very much against that. I just don't want to see that. I care about the tag team titles more when there's one set. Granted, that gives less title reigns for teams. There's going to be some teams left out, but it's not a participation award, you know? And a lot of times, especially WWE has gone through time periods where if you were a tag team in the company, it felt like you got the titles. The only teams that didn't were like the New Rockers and Bushwhackers. But fuck, Skip and Zip and the Head Thrashers. And I mean, everybody, Headbangers. I mean, everybody, it felt like was getting a crack at these things, the Godwins and whatnot. So I care about them more when there's just one team. Plus, if you have a brand split, that team can jump brands, which makes it fun just to have a few wrestlers doing that. I'm very much against ununifying these things and giving each brand their own separate titles, but it really feels like that's what they're doing. So we'll see. I feel like Aldis is going to inform Bate and Dunne about, I don't know, like a tournament or something, or a multi-man thing to determine contenders for these new belts, I guess. Probably a SmackDown thing. I mean, how do they do that? How do they reconcile that? Are they just literally going to take one half of the titles away from Priest and Balor, or is there going to be a title ceremony? That's probably what it's going to be. At this point, I don't even know if I'd wait until the new champions come. I'd give it to Priest and Balor. Do a championship ceremony, I suppose, belt presentation ceremony where you give Priest and Balor their new tag team championships that represent them on the Raw brand. And then on SmackDown, you unveil the new SmackDown tag team championships that will be contested in a tournament. That's probably what they're going to do. It's probably going to be a tournament with the winners being crowned at WrestleMania. Or maybe not a tournament, or some series of matches to decide who's going to be in the match at WrestleMania. Or maybe they just throw everybody in the ring. Maybe there's a battle royal at WrestleMania with the tag teams. Maybe it's something like that. But I feel like they're gearing up for SmackDown to have their own titles, and they will probably crown those champions at WrestleMania. That's what I feel like they're probably setting up. I hope I'm wrong. I would just like one set, but I often don't get my wish. You guys know how that is. Finally, on SmackDown last night, we had Randy Orton defeating Austin Theory in the main event. We had an awesome RKO or counter into an RKO from Randy Orton. Theory tried to do that little rolling entrance into the ring move that he does, and Orton caught him with a amazing RKO for the win. We had Kevin Owens on commentary. He got involved after the match when Grayson Waller, who was also out there, attacked Randy Orton. Great stunner sell by Austin Theory. Owens hits the ring, hits Austin Theory with a stunner that he just takes. Probably better than Scott Hall at WrestleMania 18, to be honest. Maybe even better than the Shane Beer Spit or the Santino Salute, or maybe not quite as good as the Rock sell, but up there. It was tremendous. So Theory, within the course of like 90 seconds, took an RKO and a stunner sell beautifully. And Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, little fist bump, show respect after the match. And that was your SmackDown last night. It was a wild one. We still got to talk about AEW. We got to predict Revolution. We are 2 hours and 30 minutes into this stream. So thanks for staying up late with me tonight. I knew it was going to be a long one. Before we get into that, let me go back here to the chat and catch up the super chats that we need to hit, since you guys have been very patient with that. Okay, where did we leave off? There we go. Fox Star Killer is back with 5 more. Thanks for that, man. I really hope you picked up that Rock Triple H Rivals phone, because I called it. I think I did. Danny in Oak Park has got 2 more for us. 10-cent beer night at SummerSlam. Cleveland's got 10-cent beer? Maybe I should move there. No, I would never move there. I would never move there. Whoa, who's next? The new one. Thanks, dude. Appreciate the $5 from you. What's up, Greg? Oh, I know. That's Vontae. How you doing, man? What's up, Greg? Enjoy the Solid Monster Good Mike Work collab. Next time, Rock puts up the L. Solo is going to clock it and put Roman on notice. A lot of people have been talking about Solo Sikoa, definitely, when it comes to that main event, that he could be a factor here. You know, he's always been the straight-faced guy, but there could be a lot of outside factors coming in with Tongas and Fatus and whatnot. And hell, maybe even Jey Uso comes out in this. Maybe even I would have Jey and Sammy run out there on night 2. For sure. Jey and Sami Zayn coming out there to help out Cody as well. And I just want it to be wild, man. And I think Solo is going to play a big role in this and going forward too in the Rock and Roman Reigns feud that is definitely going to be happening at some point. 7th season is here. Appreciate the $5 and ending just like Rock versus Foley for the title on Raw. The one WCW spoiled. Yeah, something like that. That was a very chaotic finish that I liked because of even the fan reaction to that was just off the charts, and Vince freaking out and Austin flipping them off, and DX being out there. Everybody was out there. Something like that would be a lot of fun, but like 10 times more. Like I want everybody out there. I want Cody's mom doing a run-in. Fucking hitting Roman in the face with a tuna casserole. Boom. Give it to me. Population 420 is back. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for the $2. Bloodline still interfere regardless. Night 1 match. Yeah, you know, because that's one thing you have to think about. The Bloodline technically is already banned from they already can't interfere in a standard match. So the fact that they're banned, okay, or there's no Bloodline, fine, but there really shouldn't be a Bloodline anyway, which means if Cody and Seth were to win and Cody gets no Bloodline, that doesn't mean there's no Bloodline. I am worried. I'm going to be worried and scared shitless. I'm going to be going into that night 1 main event rooting for Roman and Rock, because if Cody and Seth win, I'm going to be worried. If Cody and Seth win and Cody gets his no Bloodline in the match, that makes me think we are going to get a Jacob Fatu or a Tama Tonga running in, because they're not technically members of the Bloodline yet. They will join later by just doing a run in here. And they could very well do that. That would basically just, they'd come in a hood, and it would be the repeat of what happened at McIntyre Clash at the Castle with Solo debuting. So that's a good point, that there can still be Bloodline interference regardless, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's going to be Bloodline rules. I think you make a way more fun main event that way. And that's going to be giving Cody all the adversity. For the people who are thirsty for adversity, you're going to be getting all you can handle at WrestleMania, especially in a Bloodline rules match. We've got 20 more from Zane G. Thank you so much, my friend. You're the best. Would you say Punk's injury is a blessing in disguise, because there were rumors of him being a special referee for the Rollins and McIntyre match instead of him having an actual match at WrestleMania? I don't know if it's a blessing, because I really wanted to see Rollins and Punk. I thought that was going to be good. Had they gone in that direction, I feel like Rollins would have been playing the role of the heel, and then Cody would just have his match with Roman. Fuck, I don't know what would happen, man. Rock coming in and being a part of this too. I guess I'm happy with where we sit right now, but I feel like we're very lucky to be sitting there, because I felt like this could be a lot worse, and WWE really tripped themselves up. And I was nervous that WrestleMania 40 was going to suck after I was so excited for it. Now I'm back excited for it again. So I don't want to say anybody's injury is a blessing, but I should say that I'm happy that WWE is in a position where Punk's injury isn't catastrophic, to where they are still going to produce and present, you know, their most successful WrestleMania of all time. And that was probably going to happen with or without Punk anyway, because up until October, nobody was expecting CM Punk to be in WWE. Yeah, Tama Tonga could stop in NXT as well, you know, but with them coming in and WrestleMania time and all that stuff, it just feels like they could make their presence known in that. Let me do a refresh over here. Anybody who's not hit that thumbs up button for me, if you don't mind doing that, I would appreciate it. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please become one. The Solid Monster video definitely got us a good chunk there of new subscribers. So welcome and thank you for being here. I hope I don't bore you to death. Let's talk about AEW now. We talked about them a little bit so far tonight, but I want to mention a few things about this past week's Dynamite before we predict tomorrow, or I guess today's Revolution. Now, I'm not going to go too in detailed on Dynamite because everything's going to be pretty much obsolete, but man, oh man, did I love that opening segment. Hangman Page coming out on crutches. He did the injury thing last week that was rumored and speculated online about maybe him having a personal issue, and they did the injury angle in case they needed to write him out, but I wasn't really, so I was even saying that in the last podcast. I'm like, that sounds sketchy to me. I'm not sure if I believe that. But Hangman comes out on the crutch, and he does announce to the crowd that he's not going to be at the show. And I feel like I don't want to quote him because I'm not sure, but I feel like it was Alvarez or Meltzer. It was one of them, I think, who mentioned the Hangman injury angle on TV as potentially being a way to write him off because he has a personal issue going on and he might not be able to make Revolution. I'm wondering if that was done on purpose. If AEW told Alvarez or Meltzer to say that in order to make Hangman's turn more of a surprise. Basically, because if we would have known last week that it was a work, Hangman, the injury angle is just a work. When he comes out and says, I'm not going to be at Revolution, we're going to know he's lying because it's a work. So maybe they got that story out there about him having a personal issue, and this is their way of writing him off TV. So they're blending kayfabe and reality here. So when Hangman says, I'm not going to be at Revolution, for the casual fans, they're just listening to the storyline. But for the behind-the-scenes fans who follow everything, oh shit, Hangman really isn't going to be there because that injury was done as a way to write him off, so he must have to go deal with whatever personal issue he was dealing with. So basically, it was a way to kind of swerve both sets of audience members, the ones who don't pay attention to backstage shit and the ones who do. And it pretty much worked because people on social media were saying, oh, Hangman said he's not going to be there. He was very somber. One thing about Hangman Page's character has been very over the top, very unbalanced, very loose cannon-like. He's been super entertaining. I've loved Hangman Page a lot. Him and Drew McIntyre both right now have been phenomenal. So when he comes out all somber toned and he goes, unfortunately, I'm not going to make it to Revolution, and the fans kind of gasp. And then Swerve Strickland comes out and he comes in the ring and he's even showing like genuine respect for Hangman. Even said like, we've tried to kill each other for the past few months, but I didn't expect this. I didn't want this to happen. He said, you can't stop fate and I can't stop my destiny. And my destiny is winning the championship this Sunday. And that's when Samoa Joe comes out to the stage. And Joe, in the way that only Joe can do, basically just said, fuck the both of you. I'm winning regardless of who I'm facing. One of you, both of you, I don't care. You're going to lose to me. I'm the champion. Fuck you. And Swerve then says, he went from being unemployed to headlining pay-per-views, talked about attacking Nick Wayne in his wrestling school and trespassing in Hangman Page's house and threatening his child, and said he'll do anything to be champion, and Samoa Joe should know that. And that's when Hangman Page hit him from behind with the crutch, attacked Swerve, beat him down, and turned right back into that unbalanced, unstable Hangman character that's been so great recently, screaming in Swerve's ear, you will never win the championship. Screams, you will not be champion. You will not be champion. I will be champion. I will be champion. He seems hell-bent on just making sure Swerve doesn't win number one, but also winning the title himself. He's very loud. He screams a lot. He's very crazy. He's got that facial hair now, or that mustache, and he's amazing. And like I said, I just think him and Drew McIntyre both, that would be a hell of a program right there. I feel like they're each other's counterparts. McIntyre and Hangman kind of have similar spots on the roster, former champions, but not currently at the top, but kind of getting back there again, and both doing arguably the most entertaining work of their career. Maybe there have been other versions of Hangman that fans have liked, but I really like this one. I just really like to see his crazy motivations and the lengths that he will go to or stoop to make sure that Swerve doesn't win the title. And this new over-the-top heel character, really, of Hangman, was really helped along and created by Swerve because of the things that Swerve did. Entering Hangman's house and standing over his child and stuff like that. Swerve made him crazy. And now the two of them have, kind of reversed roles. Some shades of Brett and Austin, really. So that whole thing has been fun. Hangman Page has been extraordinarily fun, and I'm excited for tomorrow or today. Excuse me. We had the BCC. We had Moxley, Claudio, and Danielson defeating FTR and Eddie Kingston in a 6-man. Danielson chokes out Eddie unconscious. He even flexes while he's doing it. So we'll see how that match goes tomorrow. And one of my favorite segments of the week was Will Ospreay. Oh my God. Will Ospreay has arrived officially now in AEW. He was interviewed in the ring by Tony Schiavone, who introduces him. He comes out, just looks giddy as fuck, just hopping down to the ring in this green tracksuit. And he says, "How you doing, you cheeky shalags?" I don't know am I a cheeky shalag? I hope I am. I want to be. He says he went to Barbados for 10 days and got pissed with the missus. He says he looks like Kermit the Frog on leg day. He was out there having a blast. He feels big time to me. Just had so much fun, very comfortable out there, arm around Tony Schiavone. I flew over here. The airline lost my bag, but it's okay. It's okay because I'm here full time in AEW. My New Japan obligations are done. And he talks about how he's already been there. I've already been here. I've beaten Orange Cassidy right in the middle of this ring. I beat Kenny Omega in Canada. I beat Chris Jericho. I've beat a lot of people here. And this Sunday, he's got a big one against his family member. So the Callis family then comes out, and this is fun. Callis comes out with Ospreay's opponent tomorrow, Takeshita, and Powerhouse Hobbs. And we've talked about how this match kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think it's just used as a tool to get Ospreay out of the Callis family. But the reasons Callis gave as to why this match was happening was a little weird. He claims it's for the fans. These guys don't have any competition, so they're going to look inward and they're just going to face each other to give the fans a real treat. And make no mistake about it, Will Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita will be a real treat. I cannot wait to see it. I just wasn't sure some of the build. This is just a one-on-one match for no reason. We get these sometimes on pay-per-views. We've seen them plenty of times. Maybe somebody returning or comes back and they just stick them in there against an opponent and there's not a whole lot of build. Wasn't Triple H's return like that with Booker T in 2007? Shit like that. So I don't really care that there wasn't your standard build for this match because AEW does have plenty of normal, storylines going for the Revolution card, which is fine. It was just the motivations. I was struggling to make the connections, the same ones that Callis was making. And here in the ring, they're leaning in hard to him being completely oblivious to what a stupid idea this is because he's comparing Takeshita and Ospreay to Jordan and Pippen. Oh, they went hard in practice, but they did that to become champions. And they did that so they could go out and win championships together. And wants the two of them shake hands. He says, "Shake hands, the two of you." They both do. Takeshita holds on, then Will Ospreay does, and they're kind of not letting go of each other's hand. And when this is going on, Callis is right there going, "This is great. This is great, guys. This is so great." Just cracking me up. "This is great, guys. This is great." Callis, it ain't great. You about to lose a family member here in Will Ospreay. He is so done with these guys. So I think that in Greensboro, Takeshita and Ospreay are going to put on a show. I think it's going to be an awesome match. I feel like this should probably be a program, no matter what happens, no matter what the Callis family tries to do, there's no way Ospreay's losing this match to Takeshita, sorry. But they need to do something in this match that allows you to run it back. I would normally suggest Callis family interfering or Don Callis turning on Will Ospreay and costing him the match. But like I said, I don't think he's taken a loss in his first match as an official full-time member of AEW. This is going to be a showcase and a welcoming party for Ospreay. But Takeshita is no pushover, and he's going to give Ospreay a hell of a fight. And I think this is something that should continue beyond Revolution, and it should maybe be a process to get Ospreay fully out of Callis's family. So we'll probably get another match between these two shortly after Revolution, but that whole segment was fun because of Callis believing how great this is when I think he's going to be disappointed tomorrow. Sorry, my voice is getting scratchy, so I have to take a couple of sips of brewski here. Sorry about that. Thank you. What's next? We had Orange Cassidy last Wednesday, defeating Nick Wayne. This was a International Championship Open Challenge. This was really fun. I think Nick Wayne, for as young as he is progressing really nicely. It had a lot of people coming out. Undisputed Kingdom showed up, and then Rocky Romero and Trent came out to kind of even the odds. But in the end, we had Daniel Garcia distracting Nick Wayne, and we had the Orange Punch for the win. And yeah, we'll talk about more of what Orange Cassidy is going to do at the pay-per-view here in just a minute. We also had Sky Blue defeating Chris Statlander. Julia Hart came in the ring and blasted Stat in the face with the belt. And then we got a Code Blue for the win. So if you do the math there, you're probably going to get a different outcome here on the pre-show, as the four of those women are set for a tag on the 0 hour. Then we had Lionheart Chris Jericho defeating Atlantis Jr. Now, he is the son of Atlantis, who was a mentor of Chris Jericho in his early days in Mexico. They did a really good job, I thought, of playing a video package, playing up the history and how Jericho wanted to wrestle this kid. He had a good little match with him, and he wound up putting him in the walls of Jericho, and his dad threw in the towel. After the match, all three of them, a little show of respect there. And that was nice. Jericho came out, not to Judas. He came out to his Lionheart music and his Lionheart gear, which was nice. And it's cool seeing a lot of these CMLL guys in there and talent and wrestlers that fans aren't very familiar with, and getting them on TV here in the States I don't really see that to be a problem. Wrestling's all about variety. And back in the day, when I was watching WCW, I wasn't going, who is Juventud? They're not explaining who he is. I didn't care. The fucking matches were good. I enjoyed the cruiserweight division. So when they want to bring in some Mexican or international talent, from Mexico, from Japan, from wherever, and these people are good, I'm happy for it. I got no issue with it, and I don't understand why fans make themselves mad for no reason. It's stupid. And that brought us to what was a great final segment on Dynamite this past Wednesday. The Young Bucks coming out. Of course, everybody knows that the Young Bucks completely influenced The Rock. He stole his gimmick from them. Everybody knows this. He stole the EVP gimmick from them. He's acting like them. He's wearing sunglasses like them. I'm surprised he doesn't rename himself the Young Rocks. I'm kidding. We all know that's not the case, but it is funny seeing the Bucks and The Rock kind of have similar gimmicks right now. Sorry, I wanted to spare you that throat clear. So The Rock and the Bucks largely doing the same things. Bucks coming out with their vests and their hats and their mustaches. My God, they look like fucking douchebags. As they're making their entrance, Darby Allin is in the crowd wearing a Sting mask. He attacks them, hops the barricade, starts kicking the shit out of them. They turn the tables, take control, get Darby in the ring. EVP trigger to Darby. Then Ric Flair's music hits. Out comes Ric Flair. Of course, Ric Flair kind of hinted in recent weeks that he's a little bit frustrated with his usage, trying to make it seem like he might actually turn on Sting, which would not be out of the question because Ric Flair has turned on Sting a lot in his life. But I feel like for Sting's last match, that would be unlikely. So out comes Ric Flair. He's already had some friendly conversations with the Bucks recently on TV. And I should mention, too, prior to this, the Bucks were looking for Sting backstage. They were searching Dynamite for him. And they came across a room that just had a bunch of hanging baseball bats in there, which I think was a callback to the final Nitro, if I'm not mistaken. So they weren't able to locate Sting all day. So now Ric Flair's coming out there. Bucks think that he's on their side because of their conversations recently. So they wind up handing him a baseball bat to hit Darby with. And I think they're holding Darby, but instead he just thumbs them both in the eye and turns on the Bucks, starts punching them, but he gets hit then with a blow. And that's when the Bucks start beating down Ric Flair. And that's when Sting's music hits. So finally we get Sting's music. The Bucks grab their bats and immediately exit the ring, and they head up the ramp to head Sting off when he makes his entrance. But Sting doesn't come through the entrance. He comes from the ceiling. He lowers all the way down from the ceiling, lands on the floor, unhooks himself. The Bucks turn around. He's there. He kicks their asses. He hits them with the baseball bats. Darby comes off the top rope with a coffin drop, and Sting and Darby Allin stand tall to close Dynamite on what will be Sting's final Dynamite as an in-ring competitor. He came down from the ceiling. That's why I wanted to share that story earlier, the report from Fightful Select about how AEW and Tony Khan did reach out to Martha Hart to get her blessing on an entrance like that, which she gave them. And that was cool. Cool little throwback to back in the day. Definitely had a Nitro vibe seeing him come down like that on his final Nitro as an in-ring performer. Like I said, I think we will see Sting on Nitro one day in the future. He'll pop in to say hello from time to time, but this really is it for him. And that was a big moment. So cool way to close out Dynamite, I thought. And I think they are going to be celebrating big at the pay-per-view tomorrow. So we're about to talk about that. I did not catch Rampage, unfortunately. I did not catch Rampage, but I did catch Collision tonight as I was preparing for the podcast. I kind of had it on and I was casually watching it. We saw Buddy Matthews get attacked right off the bat. He was coming out for a match and he gets attacked by Mark Briscoe, who tries to burn him with the pyro. He throws him into the stage and Buddy's laying on the pyro. Fucking Briscoe's got the remote in his hand. He's going to hit the pyro button, but Buddy gets out of there and then he plays with it. He's with his missing tooth. Fucking great shit. So that was a lot of fun. We had a scramble qualifier. We had Dante Martin defeating Penta and Brian Keith. So he's now added to that scramble for the title at the pay-per-view. We had Mariah May defeating Angelica Risk. Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo had a confrontation after that match. We had the Acclaimed and Colton Gunn defeating the Dark Order. Also, what's been going on with Max Caster's raps lately? Are these on purpose? Last week, I saw the clip of his rap, and it looked like he fucked up and then just gave up. And then I think he also had the line about being in trouble with management. And then tonight, Bowens, I think Jay White bumped him. Jay White was out there too. Jay White bumped into him and he's during the rap, and he's oh man, what the fuck? And then Bowens grabbed the mic and finished everything off with his catchphrase or whatever. So I don't know if that's on purpose, if they're telling a story here, or if Max Caster's just been off lately, if he's in trouble with management. I don't know what's going on there, but the Acclaimed and Colton Gunn won that. Excuse me. We had a Wardlow promo. Wardlow is a part of that big scramble match, and he came out to basically say that not only he's going to win that, but he's going to be AEW World Champion. And that's when Jericho, of all people, showed up on the stage. The two exchanged some words, and then Chris Jericho was attacked by Powerhouse Hobbs. All three of these men are in that chamber, or in the scramble on the pay-per-view. And in the main event, or not in the main event, we also had Private Party defeating Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal. And the main event was Roderick Strong, Killswitch, Christian Cage, and Brian Cage defeating Trent, Hook, Daniel Garcia, and Orange Cassidy. Nick Wayne interfered in this to cost the babyfaces the match, and that was pretty much your Collision. This was taped last Wednesday in Huntsville, Alabama, after Dynamite. So that leaves us now with Revolution predictions. I think I'm going to get through these predictions and then we will be done with our notes, which means since we are now 3, count them, hours into this podcast, I can finish up talking to you guys in the chat and answer the remaining super chats that are here. And thank you again for hanging out with me late night tonight. I love Saturday night podcasts. They're the best. All right. Here we go with AEW Revolution 2024 predictions. On the pre-show, 0 hour, we have Julia Hart and Sky Blue taking on Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale. Based on what we saw happen on Dynamite, I'm going to go Statlander and Willow to win in the tag match. Main card. I don't even know where to start on this main card. Let's start with FTR versus Moxley and Claudio. I think I'm going to go FTR on this one. Moxley, the whole Blackpool Combat Club had a big win over these guys on Wednesday night. So I feel like FTR, who is a more standard tag team, will beat Moxley and Claudio in what should be a really, really fun match. We have Will Ospreay taking on Konosuke Takeshita. I just talked about that match a few minutes ago. No brainer here. 100% Will Ospreay wins this match. There's no other way to do it, but I'm looking forward to this one. And I think we're going to get a return match. They're going to run this one back. I feel like they have to, maybe even on TV, and a Dynamite main event or a Collision main event would be great to solidify and finish the story of Ospreay exiting the Callis family, because there's no reason to have him in there being a part of this at all now that he's in the company full time. I feel like he needs to be off on his own because he is a major, major star. Then we have, let's do Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong. Let's do Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong International Championship match. I got to go with Roddy. It's time. They made it known. Undisputed Kingdom has made it known their goals and aspirations. And one of those goals was for Roderick Strong to win the international title. I think he will do that here. He can easily have help from the Undisputed Kingdom to make this happen. And I feel like Roddy will pick up the win and win the championship tomorrow. And speaking of the Undisputed Kingdom and their motivations and their aspirations and their goals, one of them winning the international title, the other one winning the world title. And that's supposed to be Wardlow's job. Wardlow, as we know, is in the All-Star Scramble. This is going to be Chris Jericho, Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, Dante Martin, and Wardlow. When you look at the field, Wardlow is who has to win that. So I think it's going to be a big night for the Undisputed Kingdom. I think Roderick Strong is going to win the international title, and I think Wardlow is going to win the Scramble. Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia. This is a TNT title match. Where is Revolution? What state is Revolution in? North Carolina. Where does Adam Copeland live? North Carolina. Asheville is not that far from Greensboro. The injury to Adam Copeland is just a kayfabe injury. I predict that Adam Copeland shows up in Greensboro and costs Christian the TNT title. I thought the original plan was going to be for Copeland to win the TNT championship from Christian, but the TNT title is really honestly designed for guys like Daniel Garcia, not for guys like Christian and Adam Copeland. And if Christian and Adam Copeland are going to have their one final blow-off match, that doesn't need a championship. Daniel Garcia can be TNT champion, and then Christian and Copeland can set up their big blow-off for whenever, TV, Double or Nothing, whatever. Double or Nothing might be a little far off. So I feel like this is a chance to put the title on a new guy. Daniel Garcia has been great. He's been getting over with his little dance. He's been in the company a while. These championships are meant for people like him. They are meant to elevate talent like him. And I feel like this championship is tailor-made for a talent like Daniel Garcia. So I would have Edge, Adam Copeland, show up in this match, cost Christian the title, and Garcia wins. Big ovation. Edge there maybe by his side to help with the endorsement and help with the ovation, help get him over. And that North Carolina crowd will pop. I've been in the Greensboro Coliseum during Edge matches before. They love the guy. He actually unified the Intercontinental title and U.S. title in that very building at the Survivor Series in 2001. Did he not? Beating Test. Aha, remember? So Edge has history in that building. I think it would be fun for him to come out and cost Christian that match. Eddie Kingston taking on Bryan Danielson for the Continental Crown Championship. You know, on Wednesday, Danielson choked him out and flexed. I love Danielson, but he's nearing the end of his full-time in-ring career. What's the point of him winning this championship at this point? You know, like, I would have loved to see Danielson, still would, become AEW World Champion, like, before he retires, but I feel like he's more in preservation for the future. He's more into that. You know, he wants to help the business in the future. I definitely think he could be given a title win or whatnot, but I just don't feel like this one is one that he would win here, especially after he put Eddie down on Wednesday. I'm going to predict that it's going to be a losing night for the Blackpool Combat Club. It is weird predicting Moxley, Claudio, and Danielson to all lose, but I think they are. I think Eddie Kingston will win and retain the championship. We have Toni Storm defending her AEW women's title against Deonna Purrazzo. This has been another story that I've liked. The two women have had some very interesting and intense interactions, post-match interactions lately on TV, even as recent as tonight on Collision. And that one where Toni Storm like sniffed her. Good stuff. I love Deonna Purrazzo. I'm glad she's in. I feel like maybe it might be a little bit too early right now to put the belt on her and stop running with Toni Storm. So I feel like Toni Storm's going to retain here. I kind of feel like she has to. So I predict Toni Storm, possibly with a lot of help, maybe interference. Mariah May, of course, is all going to play a factor. But I think at the end of the day, Toni Storm should still be women's champion after Revolution. Let's run a little longer with this because that character is awesome. I feel like we got to talk about the world title match next. Right? I've talked about everything else. Strong, Scramble, Mox, Claudio, and FTR, Ospreay, Takeshita, Christian Garcia, Danielson, Eddie, Storm, Purrazzo. All right, we're there. I think we have to talk about the World Heavyweight title match next. Samoa Joe defending against Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page, who tried to pull a swerve of his own on Wednesday, but he is, in fact, going to be in this match. It is a triple threat, and I'm picking Samoa Joe. No-brainer here. If you're going to do a title change, or more importantly, if you're going to crown Swerve Strickland and make him your world champion, he needs to get that win in the main event of a pay-per-view. And I'm not expecting this match to be the main event. So Samoa Joe's going to have to retain here. There is plenty of story being told between Hangman and Swerve to easily have Swerve come out of this thing without the title, to still leave plenty of room and time for him to get to the title after the fact. Hangman is hell-bent. His number one motivation is for Swerve to not win the title. I think that's going to play a role here. I think Hangman's obsession with Swerve not winning is going to wind up costing both of them the match, and Joe is going to take advantage. Joe is going to capitalize on Hangman and Swerve's obsession with each other and wind up winning that way. So I don't know how they're going to book it, but it's going to be something that's going to transpire in the match. Swerve and Hangman constantly breaking up each other's, 3 counts or whatever, and maybe Hangman even taking things to an extra extreme, doing really crazy shit to prevent Swerve from winning. I think that is when Joe is going to make his move and take out both of them and retain his championship. And I think in this scenario, both guys are so over right now and doing so well. I don't want to see really either one get choked out, but I feel like maybe it would be better for Hangman to get choked out here and save Swerve, but Swerve maybe Double or Nothing. Maybe that'll be the match for him. Main event of Double or Nothing, winning in Vegas. That gives him time to, have one more blow off perhaps with Hangman Page. Who knows? Maybe that's a better spot for that. Or if they really wanted to extend it, we could do All in Wembley again and have Swerve win there. And that would be pretty awesome if he were to win the AEW World title in the main event in Wembley Stadium after his star-making performance last year in that coffin match, which was all kinds of fun. Would be fun full circle for him. So got to go with, though, Samoa Joe here in this match. He will retain. And that leaves us with the main event. It's going to be Sting and Darby Allin defending their AEW World Tag Team Championships against the Young Bucks in a match that should go on last in Greensboro. This thing is a sellout. Over 16,000 tickets have been sold. And how do you not do a complete and total love fest here for Sting? It's not the same every time. It's not the same for every retiring legend. There's going to be some situations where that legend should lose in his last match. And there will be other situations where it might be different. This is one of those situations where it's different. Granted, if you wanted to give the Bucks here a win and give them the ultimate mega heat of a lifetime, you could. You could even have the Bucks win and then Sting and Darby Allin kick their asses after the match and you still have the moment. You could do that, but that wouldn't be special. Tony Khan loves Sting. Tony Khan would have no problem with having to conduct or hold a tournament for vacated tag team titles. He would have no problem vacating his tag team championships in order for Sting to retire not only undefeated, but retire a champion. And with someone like Sting, who came in and really exceeded expectations, I got to hand it to AEW for handling Sting and treating him better than any company has ever handled a legend. I mean, he was used to perfection. He didn't hold anybody down. I mean, this is a guy that was undefeated and still unselfish. It's true. And that's special. And I think a lot of the talent there, Sting's use in AEW, even though he was undefeated, never once did I ever feel like he was taking a spot away from somebody else or hogging up TV time or using his creative controller ego to put himself in the spotlight. Any of those stories that you hear about people on top or returning veterans, some of the complaints that are sometimes attached to those people are complaints like that. Oh, they're taking a spot away. It holds people back, doesn't give other people the opportunity. This was never the case with Sting. Ever. AEW has issues with giving proper TV time and usage to a lot of their talent, but it never had anything to do with Sting. If anything, Sting, I think, helped a lot of talent, gave rub to a lot of talent. If I'm in my 20s and I get to take a scorpion death drop from Sting, I'm going to jizz in my pants with excitement. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a thrill, a trip for those fans, for those young wrestlers, I should say, to be able to get a rub or to compete or share a ring with Sting in any capacity. So the fact that he's been there, been a presence backstage, been featured on their TV and pay-per-views for the past 3 years has been nothing but a positive for AEW. And I'm glad that AEW can be the final resting place for Sting. This is good for their legacy too, not only Sting's legacy, but AEW now does get to be the official final resting place of Sting. This is where he's going to have his final match and his final moment, and AEW is going to be in charge of giving him the send-off, not WWE. This is one situation where I wish there could be a little bit more cooperation between the two companies. We talked about the Kevin Nash thing, and he's like, oh, I'm Triple H's friend. I can't be in the front row and have a graphic that says Kevin Nash is all elite. I'm like, why would you have a graphic that says Kevin Nash is all elite if they stuck you in the front row to be a part of Sting's retirement? They won't just tell him not to show a graphic of you, or just tell him not to have a name graphic of any kind. I don't think it would necessarily say all elite, but they couldn't flash a graphic that just says Kevin Nash, friend of Sting in the lower thirds. Come on, what kind of fucking excuse is that? And then on WWE's end, I don't know, loaning them out a little WCW footage or something would have been nice, but it's business, not the way the real world works. But despite the handcuffing of, a lot of Sting's library not being able to be used in AEW, they still put together a hell of a video package. There was, they had the Revolution kind of countdown show. There's a countdown show on their YouTube channel, and there was some really good Sting content in there, really emotional stuff, very heartwarming video packages. And they've really set his retirement up in a beautiful way, despite the fact that it would be even nicer if they could use some of his WCW footage, but, they weren't able to. So AEW giving Sting these last 3 years, presenting him the way they did. Now he's a tag team champion with Darby Allin. I feel like he needs to retire as tag team champion. I'm not expecting the Bucks to win. I'm going to predict that Sting and Darby Allin beat the Young Bucks and retain the AEW tag team titles. The Bucks, I'm sure, are going to try some shit. I'm sure this is going to be a very, very intense match, and it's going to be up to Darby Allin to do a lot. I'm a little worried about Darby Allin, to be honest. This is probably going to be maybe Darby Allin's final match too before he goes off. I mean, I don't know. Is it still his plans to climb Mount Everest? Because when he first said that, I think he said he was climbing it in like April or maybe even May. That's coming up soon. So Sting and Darby Allin here winning in the main event and Sting retiring and then Darby leaving TV for a little while to go do his Mount Everest. Hopefully he returns alive. And if he does, then he's back and he's a singles and, fresh start for him. So I feel like that's the only way to go here. As a wrestling fan, being able to send off Sting in the most positive way possible with a victory celebration. And I'm hoping, knock on wood, but I'm really hoping that AEW has contacted people in Sting's past. I would love to see Lex Luger there. Obviously, Ric Flair is going to be there. But anybody else who's available from the WCW days or even the TNA days, anybody who has history with Sting that fans would know, I would try to bring in if they're available. As many people as possible. I envision Ric Flair's retirement on Raw after WrestleMania 24 in 2008, where everybody came out there and leave the memories alone. And he just got that wonderful send-off. And it was so emotional. One of the best things I've ever seen that's yet to be duplicated. They tried to do a Shawn one. They tried to do an Undertaker one. They both kind of had their final goodbyes. But none of them were, I felt like, as emotional as Ric Flair's. And it's unfortunate that Ric Flair undid all of that just 2 years later in TNA, but it was still amazing. And I feel like AEW here are in a position to give Sting something similar than that Ric Flair got. And on top of that, you're in Greensboro, can't have a better town for that. I just think it would be great. He's going to have his family in there, his sons, the two mini Steve Bordens are going to be in there. A lot of wrestlers from the past. It would just be cool. So the more the merrier. As many people as Tony Khan can gather in that ring, I would do it. I would have the confetti come down. I would have music playing and the fans going nuts and just tears in people's eyes. The works. That's what I'm looking for tomorrow. And hopefully we get that. And that's why I think Sting and Darby Allin will win that match, defeat the young fucks and retain because they are being young fucks. My God, those guys are being exquisite douchebags. I love it. That's why I love what The Rock is doing too. I'm loving The Rock's work. I'm loving the Bucks' work. I'm loving Hangman's work. I'm loving Drew's work. There's a lot of people just doing good fucking work right now. And that is great to say as a wrestling fan. So 3 hours and 20 minutes into this podcast, and I have concluded my notes. I knew this was going to be a long one, a real long one. And we're not done yet because you guys have got super chats in here that I need to answer. So let's get to it. Let's answer some questions. Let's talk to y'all. And then after that, I'm probably going to get out of here. I might even scroll up a bit and see if there's any interesting comments that I missed because we had a pretty good audience tonight. So I wasn't able to see everything. We should talk a little bit about Hall of Fame too. Remind me about that before we leave. The next super chat I see is a couple of them from Rarely Even. You've got 2. Appreciate the first 5. These better be positive, mofo. Carl Anderson comes to my job at Dunkin' Donuts sometimes. He gets a large hot coffee with 4 creams and a Boston cream. Where do you live? That's cool. And then you got 5 more that says Carl Anderson actually knows my name. I've taken his order at my job dozens of times. Pretty cool. Even takes selfies with me and my coworkers. That's awesome. What city is this in? That's pretty cool that Carl Anderson is a regular at Dunkin' Donuts. I remember I watched, you can find it probably on YouTube. Just look, Dunkin' Donuts closes down. Just search that. It's some town, some fuck ass town way out in BFE, Pennsylvania somewhere, I think. Definitely Northeast. And it's a small ass town. Nothing is there. And apparently the Dunkin' Donuts gets closed and the town freaks out. And so they interview a bunch of people, locals, about it. And this one lady is like, well, this is where I always go to get donuts. And so I don't know where I'm going to get my donuts anymore. Donut, Donetts, donuts. She's kept saying, and I like Dunkin' Donuts, and I just don't know where I'm going to get my donuts. And then they interview this other kid. He's like a 20-year-old fucking jerkweed. And he's like, man, this is where I'd come to meet my probation officer and whatnot. I'm like, what fucking town are they in? But just look it up, Dunkin' Donuts on YouTube. Oh, you'll die. You'll fucking die. Anyway, I don't know what what reminded me of that, but I got a Dunkin' Donuts Rarely Even right across the street from me, and I love it. I love it. You want to transfer to the San Diego? Dunkin' Donuts. We got good ones out here. We got good ones. Spartan Sprinkles is back with $2. Thank you, dude. Sent you a message on Insta about WrestleMania 40 match order. Oh, man, we haven't even gotten there yet. Wait, we'll be talking about the WrestleMania 40 match order because I'm a big weirdo about match order. I always think about that and keep that and taking that in consideration whenever I'm predicting matches, because sometimes it does matter where the match is on the card. That can play a big role of who wins or loses sometimes. So I will check that out, but I do warn you, I suck on Instagram messages. I'm so behind on those, and I apologize. If anybody's got a message to me on Instagram in my inbox, I apologize if I haven't gotten to it yet. I suck. I fucking suck. Oh, that's right. It rarely even. I think you told me that before. I knew you were in the Tampa Bay area, a suburb of Tampa. I remember, what year was it? It was 2006. I drove down to Tampa because my grandparents were still alive, and they lived in Lakeland, Florida. And we went to visit them, and then we drove into Tampa and spent the night and went around the town and stuff. I like Tampa. I like Florida. I like warm. Oh, yeah, Denny Down Bad. I am a Krispy Kreme guy myself. We actually have one of those here, too, right over down the road from me as well. I got a Krispy Kreme and a Dunkin' Donuts. Krispy Kreme weren't always out here, but I used to live in North Carolina, and I used to live in the town where the very first one was. So I'm OG Krispy Kreme downtown Greenville, North Carolina on the ECU campus. There's like the original one, and the fucking conveyor belt. You can go in there and watch the donuts come through the thing and everything. I think it's like either the original one or one of the original ones. And I used to my apartment was right behind the place. Like I lived there, I guess year 1999 through like 2001 or something. I had an apartment literally behind the Krispy Kreme donuts, and it was awesome. The Krispy Kreme donuts. I love donuts. Saram Creations, I agree. The couple of matches that we got between Sting and Bret Hart weren't great. And they weren't. Same thing with Bret and Hogan. But Bret and Sting should have been really a dream match for a lot of fans. I mean, they had the same finisher, for fuck's sake. But I think it came a few years too late. I think Bret and Sting in 1995 or 1994 or 1993. Any of those years, that is where you wanted your Sting and Bret Hart match, for sure. One of those years would have been the best. And Sting, another thing that I admire Sting so much for is how good he got. He sucked at first. This is a bodybuilder that got into wrestling, like so many of them did. And a lot of those guys couldn't work. A lot of them couldn't wrestle. Think of guys like Sting's former tag team partner in the Blade Runners, Ultimate Warrior. Him and Sting were pretty much equal, when they started, but Sting became a 10 times better wrestler than him. And Sting, because of his travels, because of all the different people that he worked with, he developed a really good in-ring career for himself to where he became a good wrestler. I look at Sting now he's not a mat technician. He's not Shawn. He's not Angle. Hell, he's not even Eddie. But for someone who's a main eventer, a marketable main eventer, he's really, really good in the ring and exciting. And he got better and better with each year to the point where now when he retired, he's a wily veteran who knows his shit. And, when he came in as a completely green meathead who didn't know what the fuck he was doing, and he turned out to be one of the greatest of all time. And it's going to be bittersweet to see him off, but it's not going to be that difficult because I feel like the last 3 years of Sting have been bonus. His entire AEW run has been bonus. I wasn't expecting to see Sting ever again at all unless he came back into the WWE to do an appearance. And even if he did, they wouldn't use him the way he's been used in AEW. They wouldn't let him dive off of balconies and shit and be in matches regularly and go on a 3-year undefeated run in WWE. They would have never done that. They would have just used him in random segments and feel good shit and weird returns. He wouldn't have been involved in anything too significant. He might just appear sometimes and give guys like Austin Theory a Scorpion Death Drop, where in AEW it's been so much more fun. So Sting's career has been one that it's not going to be like super hard to say goodbye to it because I feel like we've already said goodbye to it a couple of times. After he came back in WWE in 2015 and he had that match with Seth and got injured and stuff, I thought that was going to be the end of it for him. And here he was able to come back and entertain us for several more years. It's tremendous. Awesome stuff. I feel like I need to get out of here. My God, what a night. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I'm just kind of scrolling up here through the comments before I go, just in case I miss anything. If for any reason I manage to miss a super chat tonight, I will get to those tomorrow. We will be doing a lot of stuff tomorrow for the pay-per-view. We're going to be here watching it. It's going to be fun, so make sure you join us. Tomorrow for AEW Revolution, we'll be up here watching it live together. I can't wait. Should be a special night. And I think now I need to get a little bit of rest because I don't think we have ever had a 3.5-hour Winged Eagle podcast. I think this is a first. So thank you very much to everyone who has hung with me through this entire time. That's why you guys are the best. Like I said earlier, welcome to all the new subscribers that have come in since the Salamonster video. I appreciate that and appreciate you being here and your support. And that's going to be a wrap on the Winged Eagle for March 2nd, 2024. You guys have a great rest of your night. I will be seeing you in less than 24 hours as we watch AEW Revolution tomorrow night together. Y'all have a good night, and I'll